Chapter 203 Mask of the Fire Keeper. It has been 3 days since Jonrad and Wulfur shut themselves in the laboratory with orders to send only 3 meals each day. Some said that the snow around the building all melted away after a few strong waves of heat started to come every once in a while. Also, strong thuds were heard in the past 3 days. The news was not really the hottest topic in town, as the new alchemist in town attracted a lot of attention as the well-known White Phial Alchemy store from Windhelm opened at Winterhold. The Dare Dragon Company people established a big store for the famous master of the shop, and an imperial called Quintus was the central figure of the shop, as it seemed that Master Nurelian was busy with some research. The alchemy store, however, provided a long-lost service that Winterhold hasn't seen since a very long time, and all the residents went to see the new commodities. With all the noise around the lively town, the most notable villa in town, the Seamist Manor, was having it peaceful. A lot of beauties were living in this house as it got expanded by another floor and some more rooms. It was now much larger than the estate John had in mind. In the basement, the new lady of the house, Alina, was having a bath in the large stone tub with Nurina, as the latter was trying to figure out a way to suppress the immense power of Alina's eye with her magic. "This is really strong. I could suppress it with just my magicka, but I will run dry in no time at this rate." Nurina analyzed Alina's eye power with a magicometer in her hand, trying to block Alina's power with her magicka. "I understand, Master. It is okay, I am not really sad about it or anything," Alina said as she returned the blindfold back to where it was. Nurina could tell that Alina was really depressed for the fact that she has to keep her eyes closed all the time, even though she went through a rough childhood because of her different eyes. It all started to make her suffer once again. Nurina sighed and pulled Alina to her side and kept embarrassing her. "Don't worry, my son will figure something out." Alina, who was a bit tense for the sudden hug, eased a bit and put her head on Nurina's shoulder. "I know, Mother." Nurina made a prideful smile as she was called the way she liked and kept caressing Alina's hair. Outside the house in the front yard, there was no snow in the area as 4 women present and their strong presence melted away the snow long ago. 2 of these women were having a spar and the other 2 were watching while taking care of some big animals on the side. "Aya, take this," Jelinar shouted as she gave her best combo of punches. "Seriously? Is that all what you have?" Hilda was toying with Jul and blocked her attacks with ease. "It is far from over. Come at me." Jul's move resembled John's a lot. Her legs were flying around carrying waves upon waves of attacks enforced by her grey battle spirit, aura, yet Hilda simply took it all down with her standard golden aura and her fast reactions. With a fast counterattack, Jul was sent back flying with her face in the dirt. "Not bad. Want to go again?" "It is not done yet. Hee, stupid girl. I would have eaten you alive if John doesn't like you." Hilda was still going to teach Jul a lesson in combat, but it seemed that both the style and the level of power were way above Jul. "And let her have a suitable weapon." "Yes, it is hopeless if she keeps fighting that way." Bjorna and Brenda, who were taking care of the big beasts of the firemen's, commented on the spar between Hilda and Jul. They could tell that Jul was having a hard time in close-quarters combat, which didn't seem to be her area of expertise. Hilda was toying with her left and right and Jul looked really pitiful. "Fine girl, pick a melee weapon." With Hilda's words, Jul stood up and walked for the weapon rack on the side. "John has left a ton of weapons to train with here." Jul took a dagger and faced Hilda. "Are you stupid, girl?" Hilda bashed Jul's head. "Hey, why is that? What would a tiny thing like that do? Pick something big." Jul was comfortable with knives, but the idea of using a big weapon wasn't even something she would think of. Her build was simply not suitable for big weapons. "Tisk, take this." Hilda took a spear and gave it to Jul. "Big weapons shouldn't be heavy still, they all have a better reach." "Fine." Jul took the spear and tried to get the right way to grip it based on how she saw John do it. Hey girl. Get some real notes from her, she is not called the most complete fighter for nothing. Learn all what you can learn. Brenda called for Joel. The most complete fighter was the style which Hilda was known for. She indeed preferred big weapons, but her skill proved that she is the best all-rounder in the clan. Her speed, strength, reaction and all other aspects were terrifyingly accurate, as her only talent was fighting. A lot of people wanted to learn from her, but few like Brenda and John were lucky enough to get her guidance. Now it was Joel's turn. Now, girl. Show me something good. The spar got ignited once again, and Joel's talent was starting to bloom as a spear wielder. John couldn't really determine which weapon was the best for Joel due to her style of fighting, but Hilda figured it out in an instant. Joel was now carrying a spear, and a buckler was tied to her left. Her stance was low, and she was moving around and striking with strong frontal attacks while dashing ahead and jumping backward. If she would get closer, she would switch to a short blade to get the perfect pin on her opponent. Hilda also tested Joel's archery and was really impressed by her movement. A strange style of a strong yet a very light fighter with the ability of archery was the perfect way to describe Joel's new training style. She kept sparring like that with Hilda for 3 days. Hilda wouldn't really think of a proper name to Joel's style, but when John sees it, he will think of one style, the Amazon. Good work for today. Hilda offered a hand to the all-beaten-up Joel on the ground. Thanks for the guidance. Joel stood up while leaning on the training spear. Hilda shook her head, then held Joel like a small cat from her clothes. I'll take you in. With a bewildered face, Joel got carried into the house on Hilda's arm. A minute later, the two arrived at the stone bathtub in the basement where Alina and Nurina are. Hilda put Joel down slowly, then undressed in second and jumped into the tub. Seriously? How old are you? 9? Nurina, who was relaxing and got splashed away, grumbled at Hilda. Just give me that. Hilda snatched the red wine bottle from Nurina and sat beside her. The two started to have a drinking contest, and Joel slid beside Alina. Rough training? Alina asked. Yeah. Come closer. Joel got closer to Alina, and the latter hugged her closer, then cast some healing spells all over Joel's body. Keep doing it. It feels so good. The harmonious mood was still going around until a fifth person appeared in the bathtub room. A little girl in a black robe disregarded all the gazes on her and jumped beside Alina. Nefertiti, did you deliver the food? Yes. How are they doing? Busy. Did they tell you when will they come out? Nefertiti shook her shoulders. Alina sighed and didn't say anything more. John has been absent from home for 3 days. She was the one running the company in his absence as the newly recognized lady of House Dare. Life was good, but she was worried about John. The only thing she knew was that Johnrad and Wulfur are crafting some artifacts from a very rare alloy that required a lot of patience and power. Wulfur's level as a blacksmith seemed to be going through a serious upgrade during this process, and both John father and son were helping him. Bjorna could get from Wulfur that they are crafting a piece of accessory that power is going to be very powerful to help Alina control her eye powers, and according to Wulfur, the beauty of that piece is going to be a master-level piece of art that the world has rarely seen any like to. Just as she finished recalling that, Bjorna came through the door with a wide smile on her face. They are out. With that said, even Nurina jumped up as fast as she could, and went to see what these pieces of art turned out to be. All the ladies in the bathtub went up in a second, leaving the blindfolded Alina behind. Sigh. They really did it, huh? Alina didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she loosened the blindfold and went out gracefully, then wiped the water with magic and dried her hair. A few minutes later, she walked out while wearing a gorgeous white dress that exposed her cleavage and shoulders, which she later covered with a shawl. Upon her taking the steps up to the upper level, she was met with only John. I came to take you, he said as he approached her. She extended her hand to him, which he took and kissed. Take me then. Okay, open your eyes, no one is around. Alina slowly opened her eyes to see John, who looked a bit roughed up after 3 days of constant working. He pulled her closer and kissed her on her lips with a lot of longing and passion. She didn't offer any resistance and even pulled him closer. Sorry, I stink, John said as he realized that he didn't bathe in 3 days. Do you? You taste just right though. Alina was pressing closely on John, who was looking at her gently. This gentle look in his eyes was something he only showed to his loved ones. Alina was one of his family, and she always got the gentlest of his looks. Want to see what I made? But let us stay like this for a while. Alina was smiling playfully as she wanted to make the ladies who went before her wait longer. John didn't mind if he would make the world wait for some time alone with Alina, but someone came to bust them. Playing again without me. Joel seemed a big upset and clung to John. Alina closed her eyes to not harm Joel and directed her face down with a shy smile. She was a shy girl around anyone but never minded anything with John. He was already a lot to her. Do you want to play with us too? Alina grinned at Joel. What? Am I allowed to? Joel replied playfully and squeezed herself between John and Alina while facing Alina. She then approached Alina playfully and seemed to be going to kiss her. Alina's face blushed, but John was already dragging Joel away from her ears. Don't tease her. What? She invited me personally, she likes to get teased. Ouch, ouch. Okay. John was having the 2 girls on his left and right while holding them close. The 3 were wasting time together until Nurina called at them with a stern tone. They went out with an apologetic and awkward look on their faces. John led the other 2 to the large table of the dining room. There a few things were being covered under some white clothes, and everyone was gathered around the table. Alright, everyone. We created quite a few stuff with the mithril we could cook. I don't know how it was done, or if we were lucky or not, but it is mostly a joint effort. Wulfur said as he started pointed as the things on the table. As agreed, I will do the presentations, Wulfur said and started removing some clothes on the smallest pieces. These are the Heart of the Sea series, forged by me and Mr. John Rad and enchanted by John. The Heart of the Sea series were 3 very gorgeous-looking necklaces that were forged by a platinum-like metal that had a bit of golden gleam to it. As the necklaces seemed really thin and delicate, they carried 3 blue gemstones that were shaped like a water drop and were surrounded by an artistic cage of mithril that gave the gemstones a sacred aura and a beauty over their beauty. This one is for you, Bjorna. Wulfur presented the one that was on a black stone display to Bjorna. For me. Bjorna's eyes almost fell from their sockets as she saw the beauty of the necklace she was being gifted by Wulfur. This thing was literally the most precious piece of accessory that she ever saw in her life. Why not? Mithril itself was metal from legends that wasn't known if it was made as an alloy or had its own ore in nature, but Wulfur said it was an alloy that required some freakishly rare substances. John had the highest understanding of the mithril, as Shadow has told him a way to create it. Even though it was impossible to get, one of the components to create it was a dragon's blood, which John had no problem in acquiring at all. He himself was a walking 7 liters of dragon blood. Anyway, Wulfur walked behind Bjorna and put the necklace on her with the cheers and winks of all the people attending the event. The second necklace was presented to Hilda by John Rad, which was rather getting romantical, except for John's chilly glare that made John Rad want to cuss at him. And finally, the last necklace was for Nurina, which was gifted by John. This is an interesting enchantment. Nurina read through the enchantment right away. Like it. It is great. I love it. The enchantment was indeed powerful, as John described it as an all-sort protection enchantment which would shield the wearer from all harm once the gem is charged. Once the gem is activated, it would become red and its power will be something to behold. Of course, only a high-grade material can withstand a highly advanced enchantment. When John crafted it, he was enjoying to his heart's content, as enchanting on mithril was totally unhindered by no law. It felt like he can make a godly artifact if he wanted to. Still, Jull was starting at John as if saying, I better get something good or else. And now, for these two big pieces of awesome. First, Jull is known for her reckless style and hates to put a helm on her head. That is why we made this. John called it Crown of the Valkyrie. Wulfur announced and removed the cloth from the first piece to show a strange circlet with wings over its side. It greatly resembled the Valkyrie helmets from the Norse mythology, as it had the same winged pieces to the side and protected the forehead splendidly. It didn't cover the whole head, which made it very light. John carried it and stood in front of the bewildered Jull. This is way more expensive than my head itself. She thought so. Hilda helped John to hold Jull's hair to the back and John fixed it on Jull's face. The color of the mithril overlapped with her ashen gray skin, and made her skin give more luster and glossiness. Now, Jull's skin was akin to mithril itself. The enchantment on this crown was very bizarre. John said that he used the largest soul gem he had to make this strong enchantment. John himself was in wonder of how good he made this piece. Jull broke into tears and hugged John tightly until Hilda dragged her by force. The last piece, this beast. Wulfur revealed the last artifact crafted by them. Another crown? Nerina asked. It indeed looked like a crown, no a warrior crown like Jull's, but an actually big crown. Its appearance was different in style to the delicate things created before, and the amount of mithril in it seemed to be more than 3 times the necklaces and the crown of the Valkyrie combined. It is a mask, John said. The people around looked at it and imagined if such a thing was indeed a mask. It looked like a circlet but was wide and big. Its design was somewhat high elven but seemed far thicker and sturdier. The feeling of the magic it gave off was different from the other pieces, as it didn't give any peaceful or a tranquil aura, it only emitted power, lots and lots of overbearing power. John carried it and went in front of Alina. Here it is. It was made from the regular components of mithril and a dragon's blood. It was enchanted by no soul gem but by a heart stone that contains the power of Shor. This is the mask that can be used to shield you and destroy your enemies at the same time. John said as he put the mask on Alina's face. He put it on her face and it fitted her like nothing else, as if it was made for her from a long time ago. Even though it hid the top half of her beautiful face, it added to her beauty even more. Open your eyes, Alina. With John's words, Alina opened her eyes. The mask made a strong pulse of power, as if it was being awakened from an old slumber. Its power was felt by all, and everyone stepped back except John. What a power! Even Jonrad and Nerina were scared. The mask resonated with Alina too well, as if it was singing for the long-awaited return of its owner. Alina touched the mask and it calmed down immediately. John couldn't help but smile. What did you call this, John? She asked. Sadly, it had a name before I recreate it, so we will stick with the original. He smiled and continued. Mask of the Fire Keeper. Chapter 204, The Glorious Threesome, plus 18. A big shout for Boglut Adrian Mircha, Dark Priest. The first to gift on PayPal. Also, there is a chapter after this. Late at night, everyone went to bed and John snuck to the bathtub in the basement. This place is literally a piece from heaven. The water heater, the soap and everything else was just there waiting for me to have an epic bath. Still, John was accompanied with Jull, who was too excited to sleep. She was holding the crown in her hand and looking at it with all the love in the world. You like it that much? John asked. You're kidding? It is the best thing in my world, after you of course, and Alina. John smiled to her answer and leaned closer to her. How much do you love me? Jull paused for a while, then looked at John and held his head with her small hands. You are the world to me. What is my life if you are not in it? Remember when you told me that I am your thing? That day I stopped living for myself and started living for you. Even the voices, they are all about you now. You are more than what you can ever think to me. Jul's words were said in her crazy enchanting tone that she only reveals to John, her other face and maddened personality that only he gets to see. He just looked to her and didn't resist the urge to pull her closer to himself. His head was on her decent chest as he pressed on it further to feel her warmth and get some peace of mind. She, who knows when he is tired and seeks some peace, hugged him tightly to herself and started humming for him. John always loved her voice and listened to her song most of the time. The two mad couple kept this state sitting together naked in the warm water until a presence revealed itself. The two of them recognized the presence and smiled faintly, not even moving an inch away from each other. The door to the bathtub opened and a girl with an artistic mask on her eyes walked in. Alina knew that John and Jul have sneaked in here together and didn't resist the urge to come and check on them. She looked at their position and paused for a while. Both were stuck to each other and closing their eyes peacefully while Jul was humming. Alina knew she was going to see an intimate scene, but she had the least intimate experience when it comes to John's women. She knew about his outside relationships and didn't really get it when Jul told her that one woman may get broken if she tried to satisfy John all by herself, so Alina never got ahead of herself. Now, after she returned from her clan and was officially the lady of the house, she wanted a share of John too, part of the reason she became so open with him. Once she saw him with Jul, however, she became confused. How do I advance? She thought. Lucky for her, neither John nor Jul were the patient type when it comes to lovemaking. Jul opened her eyes and nodded for Alina to approach. While keeping her black robe on her, Alina went into the tub and walked to Jul. She saw how John was being hugged and wanted to have that too. She looked to Jul and the latter offered her a hand. Sit on the other lap. Alina got confused, but she noticed that with John's height, she would indeed need to be on his lap. The problem is, she could detect the Jul was sitting on, but there were two more laps. She couldn't see past the soapy water, but she noticed that Jul and John were silently dying from laughter. That's when the light of understanding shone upon her. Really? How is that? I am. Alina realized that she had underestimated John yet one more time. There was a secret to his golden hand after all, and it seemed to be something outside of the normal league she heard of. John had to pull her on his lap himself, and without moving his head from Jul's chest. Jul took the initiative and splashed some water on Alina's upper body, making her clothes soaked wet. That started to outline Alina's amazing figure under the clothes. Jul was familiar with Alina's naked figure. She knew that this girl is another story when her clothes are removed, but she kept the fact from John to see his reaction. With her clothes wet, Alina was losing trying to figure out how to lose the sense of shame around John, even more tried to loosen the nape of her robe. That was when Jul pulled her suddenly at John and Alina's breasts pressed on John's head from the other side, while making a silly voice. Jul smiled at Alina and looked to her in the eyes. The mask of the firekeeper didn't hide Alina's eyes, so they were visible but under control. Seeing the look in her eyes, Jul held Alina's head and pulled her closer to herself, then took Alina's lips with her lips and went into a deep state of mind-blanked kissing. John, however, was experiencing something new. He never knew that Alina's breasts were this heavenly. The first word that came to his mind was marshmallow. As he was getting used to the feeling, he could feel that heartbeats of the girls rising. He inspected the situation up there and saw Alina corresponding passionately with Jul. That's hot, he said. He leaned to the back and watched one of the best shows of his fantasies being applied in real life. His two girlfriends were hitting it together too. Okay, playtime is over. John carried the two girls each in hand and went out of the bathtub, setting his destination to the main bedroom. John threw the girls on the bed, and they were still squirming around each other. As he leaned on them, his shadow covered them and both turned to him. Tonight is Alina's, Jul said. Why not? John agreed. He then lied beside Alina and looked at Jul, who was on her other side. The two nodded at each other, and they sandwiched Alina from both sides. With a lot of experience under their belts, Alina, who is a complete virgin, got pulverized by two horny mad people. John and Alina entered a heated state of kissing and John didn't stop fondling her breasts. Joel slid down between Alina's legs and found Alina's forbidden area. She smiled and stuck her face to Alina's vagina that was in a heated state after she was being played by John and Joel the whole past hour. Alina kept moaning from John's and Joel's play until she started losing the sense of her surrounding. John wasn't going hard on her, and let her have her own pleasure without going full-on action until Joel decided to switch. "Get down here." She pulled Alina beside her and John was now sitting on the bed with the two between his legs. Joel held John's dick and put it in front of Alina's face, who paused for a second. She is now the closest she could get to little John that was fully awakened. "We do it like this." Joel started teaching Alina her fellatio technique in front of the grinning John. He just sat and relaxed, enjoying the show of his lovers serving him for the first time. Alina was a bit competitive and didn't want to lose to Joel, so she threw all the shyness away and joined the glorious fellatio. Both were competing, and luckily, John's dick was more than enough for two girls to play with. John was resisting the urge to flip the two girls around and start nailing them, but it was drawing closer any time now. John wouldn't go out on both Alina or Joel, unlike how he did it with Victoria, who he destroyed completely to brand her as his own bitch, or how he does it with Alishka, who was his personal sex guide. To him, Joel and Alina shouldn't be messed up that hard, or as he would feel guilty about it. In the end, he flipped them over on each other and went on Alina first. "Here I go, princess." John aimed the tip of his dick on Alina's pussy and went in. Alina made a struggling voice, but Joel was hugging her and fondling her breasts. Alina's pain was overtaken by pleasure and John could go in. He stayed still for a few seconds inside Alina until her inside got used to the intruder, then he started to move. Alina was screaming from pleasure with every time John moved. John himself was about to lose his mind a few times to her seductive moans and crazy jiggling body, so he chose to kiss her a few times, but he found himself being hugged by her arms and legs. Then he got pulled closer and closer. "Careful, careful!" John didn't really want to harm Alina, but she didn't seem to mind it at all. Actually, his actions begged him to go harder. He also was impressed by how deep he could get in her. It was still not that much, but he liked it so much already. "All right, you asked for it." John hugged Alina back and sat with her facing. She started to slide down on his dick while breathing roughly, but suddenly, she pushed him back and rode atop of him. Relentless. "I like." John liked where this was going and started to watch Alina going up and down on her own. Joel joined in and stuck her back to Alina, helping her to go up and down. Words of pleasure escaped from Alina's mouth and squirted once and twice, but seemed to be still going. John nodded to her durability and decided to not be polite anymore. He moved his thighs and she started bouncing up and down with him until he cummed inside her. She also squirted at the same time as him and let herself lie on his body. John hugged her warmly, but Joel was already taking her turn too. She leaned forward and started kissing both Alina and Joel. John didn't seem to be tired at all and started playing with Joel. She was very horny and squirted more than Alina. The girls were too strong compared to all the other girl John slept with before. They recovered in an instant and wanted to go on again and again. That night, John could admit that he finally found the pair that could put him down in terms of sex on their own. Chapter 205: The Haven Cube Unlocked. The second release sounds a bit dirty after the last chapter. The next day, John woke up with two naked girls on his left and right. The room was still warm and the magic in it was still flowing through it. John was still tired from all the night activity. He went through and started drinking a whole keg of water on his own. He then looked at the two sleeping beauties and smiled. His two future wives are just the best in his eyes. Getting this lucky in this life feels way too good. He had everything he wished for, the power, the money, the girls. He knew he finally made a full life, but he understood that this is far from over. His achievements were not a thing his enemies wanted for him to keep. The report that got delivered to him this morning was the best reminder to him. Last night, a high elf tried to infiltrate into the Dare Dragon Company building and managed to reach the secure door of the laboratory. If not for the complicated magic lock on the door, the infiltrator would have broken into one of the most top-secret facilities in Winterhold. John was a bit angry, but he knew what that elf was after. He dressed right in a second and went to the Dare Dragon mercenary barracks in the east. "Fill me in," John asked his housecarl Trudvar. An annoying fellow, acting all arrogant and mighty even after getting caught. Typical high elf, what else? We found that on him. Trudvar handed John a magic scroll. The scroll was still sealed, as it was a common sense not to open a none-appraised magic scroll. John checked the magic scroll for an instant and clicked his tongue. TSK, a dispelling magic scroll, a very high grade. This scroll was a very simple but dangerous one. If the intruder used it on the laboratory's door, most of the magic rune would have been removed. Luckily, John had that door enchanted to reconstruct the magic rune on its own and initiate a lockdown if it was opened the wrong way. "Show me to the elf." John followed Trudvar to the underground cell under the barracks, and there he could see an elf with an arrogant look on his face. John didn't say anything and simply stepped into the cell. "You are the Thane of Winterhold, good. Your filthy men dared to lay a finger on me? If I am not released this very second, you can't blame me for not." "Arg." John simply punched the high elf. He looked with cold eyes to the prisoner and smiled. "So the Thalmor decided to move in such a time? What a shitty day." John walked to the high elf lying on the ground and stepped on his face while looking down on him. "I'll kill you. I'll kill you." The high elf couldn't take the humiliation of being stepped on by a human and tried to react. John didn't give him time to do so and went down on the elf with all sorts of kicks and insults. "Bring the torturer here. I want him to have it hard." Trudvar nodded and went away for a second, then returned with a fat Redguard man carrying a small bag. Thane John, you finally have work for me. I am very pleased, haha. Richie, you sick bastard. I never thought for a day that I would ask for your help." Richie was the warden of Winterhold former prison, the Chill, and was also the executioner and the torturer. He was a short and a fat man with a sickening attitude. John didn't like that man one bit and kept him away, but Richie was always begging for John to use him as a warden or an executioner. With Richie's bad reputation, John preferred to keep him away, but he knew that he would need him one day, so he kept him close. The sickening tales about Richie were still vivid in the memories of some people in Winterhold, so John knew that this guy was sickeningly capable, and that was the time. "Make that elf sing All That I Need to Know." "Ha ha ha ha, Thane John, you only need to ask and Richie will deliver. Finally I can get a job too, ha ha, and an altmare at that." What a day! What a day! John left the high elf to Richie and went back to the company's building. Deep in his laboratory, John was sitting on a stool while playing with the Dwemer Haven cube in his hand. He was able to figure out the activation rune, but he understood that it needed a form of registration to make the cube recognize him as the owner of itself. Nefertiti was coming and going in her cat mode while playing with a rubber ball John made for her. She was supposed to be trained on shadow magic, but she was super bored from studying. John was bored too after failing to open the Dwemer Haven cube. He thought he was getting close, but each time he creates the magical rune he thinks is right, he finds something missing. At that time, he looked at Nefertiti, who was wholly given over to playing with the ball, and noticed something strange. The ball was clearly out of Nefertiti's reach, but suddenly, some strange black extensions came out from her paw and redirected the ball. "Huh!" John stood up and walked to Nefertiti. "Come here, girl." John caught the ball and Nefertiti came towards him. He held the ball up away from her and started waving it. "Now catch it. Homan, give back, you meanie." Nefertiti tried to catch the ball a few times until she did that thing again. John could see her claw extending and becoming longer while trying to catch the ball. He quickly caught her paw and checked it thoroughly. "What is that?" he asked. Nefertiti looked at her paw and tilted her head cutely. "Try to maintain it." John gave some of his magicka to Nefertiti and her shadow claws became stronger and more visible. "That's some cool shadow magic," John exclaimed. "Shadow magic, Naya?" Nefertiti wondered. John nodded with a wide grin. "Yix. Shut up, magic is awesome. Keep training on that move and I will give you a dried fish." "Naya. Meow hates shadow magic." "Really, you will get more fish, you know. A big fish with a dripping oily fat and a big bowl of milk." "2 fish." "You little fine, but you will only get an extra fish if you show a new trick, deal?" "Deal." Nefertiti was striking a new deal with John, who sat with a wide grin after finally convincing her to practice the shadow magic. "By the way, how did you come up with that Shadow Claw's trick?" John asked. "Don't know. Meow just wanted to reach it." John started thinking about what Nefertiti said of just wanted to do it and reached his hand to the Dwemer Haven cube with the simplest magic rune. He unlocked the cube with the intention of just wanting to go into it and he is in. Holy freaking moly. This place rocks. It was like a large cubic Dwemer-style stone room with faint lighting and a strange smell. It was simply very empty and very cold. Damn. This place needs a room. With just an idea in his head, 2 walls started being formed in the cube as they seemed to be there all along. They left a small gap between them to be the room's entrance. "I see now, so this cube has that function too." John looked at the cube in his hand with a smile until he realized what was wrong. "Why is it in my hand?" John wondered about it for a while, then he felt like he wanted to go back to the laboratory right away. Applying the same way he entered, John found himself out once again with the cube still in his hand. He didn't understand what just happened, but it didn't seem to be that dangerous to go in the cube. It also seemed that there is another version from the cube in the cube that acts as the control panel to the interior of the cube to the cube, while the real cube is not really in the cube. How cubic, John thought to himself. John then aimed the cube at some scrap pieces of metal in the corner, and it all got sucked in by the cube. John was impressed by the cube and decided to look into it while not going in. He tried to change the magical runes, and it really was possible. He only closed his eyes and the scrap pieces of metal could be seen inside the cube. He aimed the cube to the outside once again and let the scrap pieces out. The next trial was Nefertiti. John aimed the cube at her and she got sucked in. "Homin miani," John could hear after he checked the inside of the cube. "Nothing wrong there." "My ball is not here." "Here you go." "Humph. Now make meow a small house." The silly cat started bossing John around, so he kicked her out of the cube. "Okay, now I want you to focus, tell me what will happen." John entered the cube physically, then went out again. He then looked at Nefertiti and asked. Homan went poof, then came again with no fish. "Tsk, what about the cube?" "Cube went poof, but it was still around, meow could feel it." "I see." John analyzed it based on Nefertiti's extraordinary sensing ability that the cube keeps itself in another frequency of reality when the user is in. No wonder I could tell what's on the outside too. John thought about it and arrived at the fact that the cube is already an overpowered artifact. "Okay, come here." John held Nefertiti up and made her control the cube, then told her how to use it. According to what he knows, Nefertiti could copy some of his powers and his magical fingerprint too. She was very connected to him by soul, and she can even use magicka from his magicka pool like an extension to him. And now, she could use the unique artifact that only recognized him as its owner. Nefertiti managed to store things in the cube, and get things out of it too. If someone other than my cutie can do that, I would have shouted them to pieces, John said and hugged Nefertiti intimately. He was really pleased that her connection with him was growing stronger day by day. It was a blessing any cat lover would kill for. John held the cube and looked at it with a grin. He was happy to have such a convenient tool, even so its appearance was very attractive and was hard to be hid. Unless John tried to check more of the mysteries about the cube, and as if it was answering its master saying, "You are right," John's order to the cube to change its appearance was answered right away. The cube took another form and turned into a ring, then a necklace, then circlet. This thing has endless potential. I bet Lord Fyr was grinding his teeth when I took it. No, he wasn't, and it was true that the cube has a lot of potential with the feature John unlocked so far. "Homin, someone coming," Nefertiti said. John made the cube into a ring and decided to call it the Haven Ring from now on, then turned to open the lab's door. It was Trudvar who was about to knock the door. "Oh, boss!" "Report." The elf talked. John nodded and turned around to pick up his coat and told Nefertiti to follow. In the Dare Dragon mercenary barracks, John was sitting on a chair with John in his hand. Opposite to him, a high elf knelt on his knees with a pale face and some horrified expressions. Fatty Richie was smiling and acting all proud in front of John, as if bragging about his work. From the report, it seemed that the Thalmor wanted to know what does the Firemen's and the Dare Dragon Company are planning for the summer raid on Japhet's Folly. For some reason, you guys are interested in it. Don't you know why? John asked. The elf shook his head in fear right away. This level of cooperation was indeed something. John never would have thought that a high elf, let alone a Thalmor, would be this timid in front of a human. Just what the hell did you do? John looked at Fatty Richie in wonder. There was not a single trace of blood from the elf. Richie seemed to be taken aback and put his bag down. If Thane John is interested, I will demonstrate once again. Richie took out a few leather strips, a skin tube, some smooth poles and a lot of weird stuff. You know what? I don't even want to know. John had a few ideas about how their toys were used and didn't want any confirmation. He paid Richie and promised to make his job a full-time one if he kept quiet about it. John went out and Trudvar followed him. Go wake up the firemen's, Ongium and Jal. Tell them we are raiding some close Thalmor hideout. Yes, boss. John decided to go to Wulfur's house and wake him up, then go to his house and take the beauties with him too. Still, while he was walking, he started thinking of Japhet's Folly and its riches. He then looked at the Haven Ring in his left and to Nefertiti that was carried on his right. He looked left and right, left and right, left and right, then he smiled. A devilish idea just came to his mind. Chapter 206 Against the Thalmor 1. It was still the morning. The sun has barely dyed the sky with its light, and those who had early jobs were barely just waking up. I, however, was going around the streets in the morning to check on things. I may not sound like a caring ruler, as I mostly leave the secondary matters to the management department in the company, but I somehow care about the town in my own way. For example, this morning I found a damaged part of the road that no one seemed to be going to fix. I had to highlight that place for the employees that are responsible for fixing the road. Also, a house was badly damaged due to a storm and the residences were too poor to handle the repairs. Here where I had to come in. Don't get me wrong, this is not me showing off my charitable heart. This is basically a part of my job description as the holder of the title of a Thane, and I take my job very seriously. With my morning patrol/warm-up complete, I took my way to wake up the sleepyheads. Wulfur's house was on the opposite side of mine, and it was smaller as Wulfur himself didn't the hard-to-clean places, even though I offered him to have some servants, but Wulf values privacy. In front of his door, I knocked on with a style. Knock, no knock, knock, knock. Strangely, he wasn't awake yet. A few seconds later, I heard some movements from inside. Normally, Wulfur's place is like my place, so I opened the door anyway. Hey Wulf, I am coming in. Just as my head went in, A strangely familiar-looking fist was thrown to my direction. Too late to avoid it anyway. "Hey, you didn't have to punish him." A voice spoke, a feminine one. Sorry, I was nervous." "That dumb voice is Wulfur." "That punch. I'd recognize it anywhere, it's Wolf's punch." "Still, why does it hurt like this?" I opened my eyes and understood the situation immediately. "Sigh, kids." In front of me, Wulfur and Bjorna were hanging their heads down. "So, you guys slept together?" They both nodded. It seemed that Bjorna spent the night at Wulfur's place. "Okay, I understand you guys are shy about it. I also understand that you don't want anyone to know." They both nodded. "Fine. Still, what I don't understand is why I got punched." They both looked at each other and seemed a bit awkward. "Sorry, man. You know, Wolf loves his privacy." Wulfur spoke in a third-person style. "I won't forgive you even if you speak like a Khajiit. TSK. That didn't work." I let out a sigh because of this guy's insolent behavior. "Okay, Bjorna, can you go and wake Alina and Jull up?" "Yes, right away," she said and went out running. I watched her going out, then looked at Wulfur and winked at him. He foolishly smiled like an idiot. An opening! Asterisk swoosh. Star. I kicked his guts when he didn't expect at all. Arg. Why? Payback, bitch! The morning was a bit peaceful, so I took the chance to fool around with Wolf for a bit, then went to the company and geared up together. Wulfur was trying a new warhammer today, and its weight was something to behold. "What did you made that from?" "Steel, steel and more steel." "I love it. Don't you feel like you need a new weapon? Your saber and hammer are really getting outdated." Now that you mention it, I only have that powerful staff we acquired from Vermina in Quagmire, and my traveling armor that I acquired from Herson. Let me think if I know about some good artifact hiding here or there." "Fine, just saying if you want anything custom forged." "Nope, the forging is not my current problem. I need some good enchanted gear. To tell the truth, I really need a serious upgrade to my gear. Savior's Hide and the Skull of Corruption are the best pieces of gear I have. The best sword I have is a katana called Bowler's Oathblade, and I'll be carrying it around from now on. I stored my stuff in the Haven Ring and went to the meeting held on the 4th floor. In the meeting room, Jull, Alina, Wulfur, Bjorna, Njord, Jonrad, Hilda, Brenda, Nefertiti, Nurina, Mjal, Trudvar and Ongium were all present. "Okay, everyone, sit down." As everyone sat down, Bjorna approached Wulfur and whispered something for him. He looked at me with eyes wide open, then looked at Alina and Jull. I grinned at him, confirming what he heard. "What is the big deal about it, I wonder?" "You are not the only one to gift your girlfriend a mithril artifact, so don't think that you are the only one who had some romantic night. The two of us weren't the only one who had a pink night too. Some people were glowing this day more than yesterday, so take a hint, damn it. Anyway, what is the big deal, boy?" Nurina asked. I looked at Trudvar and he nodded to me. With that, he stood up and started the report. It was about the Thalmor spy and what we extracted from him, the location of the other Thalmor spies, their contacts, their purpose, some other strategic information, and some plans regarding how to deal with them. "So, you want to send the Thalmor away? Killing them off is better than leaving them around. This will send a message that we are not playing nice with them. If we let them be, they will become bolder and infest the area with their spies." The discussion kept going in favor of my opinion. "Good, count me in." Jonrad agreed with me and put his golden katana on the table. "So you are not giving any face to the Thalmor?" Ongium asked. "Fuck the Thalmor," I said. I am in too?" Ongium put his axe on the table. "What about the Empire? Their spies are still around. Acting so rashly will make them hold one against you." Njord asked. "Fuck the Empire," I said. "Haha, why am I loving this?" Njord put his spear on the table. "So you don't think that moving this early would make them lump you with Ulfric?" Brenda asked. Fuck Ulfric, I said. Cousin, you have my axe, Brenda said, and put her axe on the table too. Everyone stood up with their weapons drawn with a bloodthirsty air around us. We moved that night leading a small force of 200 Dare Dragon mercenaries, and our target was the coast near Iskramor's tomb. The ones who didn't follow were Nerina, because she was the one to watch over Winterhold when I am not around, and Hilda, because she didn't feel well this morning. Other than that, we traveled into two groups, the main group under the lead of Njord and Wulfur, and the stealthy unit under Jonrad and I. So, you made a pact with a saber cat? I talked with Jonrad, who was carrying a large snow saber cat that looked really fearsome. His name is Hans, a really friendly one, Jonrad said while patting Hans. What about Gulliver? I asked about Jonrad's cat. Lazing around at home, cats aside, when did you acquire such a nice blade? Jonrad pointed to the katana I was carrying. Belonged to one of you blades, its owner left it over a shrine of Talos and an oath on it. Last I know he died to the Thalmor chasing him. Jonrad looked sad for a while, then talked again. Do you know which brother that oath blade belonged to? I think his name was Acilius Bowler. I see, so that's Bowler's oath blade. It is, you know the man? Met him once or twice in Cloud Ruler Temple. Didn't know much about him, but he was another good brother that we lost. I see, do you want the blade? No, you keep it. A blade's katana with you is better than to be with some random adventurer. Bowler wouldn't be any happier seeing his blade being carried in a campaign to kill his enemies. It will bring him comfort. Jonrad's voice was a bit nostalgic. So, you didn't tell me, if the blades were to be reformed again one day, would you go and join them? I asked a question that was on my mind for a while. Jonrad paused for a bit, then shook his head. If the blades were ever formed again, I doubt it would be for the same true purpose it was originally formed for. You mean slaying dragons and guiding a Dragonborn? Jonrad nodded. You can say so. What if that true purpose came up once again? That's a good question, boy. Well, I am an old man now. If a dragon break ever happened, it would be every man's duty to stand up and fend off against dragons. If a Dragonborn appeared, then every man's duty and honor is to aid him or her towards their path. It is not really a blade's thing to fight dragons and aid the Dragonborn. But if the organization was formed once again with that purpose present, I don't think I have what it takes to go back. I am a father and husband now, you know. I see. His answer is logical and good. Good answer, old man. I didn't really want him to get along with the blades when they come back to the world again. It wouldn't make me feel comfortable. Jonrad was looking at me and trying to figure out the reason for my question. I had to divert the topic. This golden katana you carry around, what is its origin? Oh, good eyes, you are curious about it? Well, it looks cool. Sure it does. Have you ever heard of Goldbrand? With these words, my head went completely blank. When I confirmed what I heard, I looked at Jonrad again. Fuck, did you just say Goldbrand? What is Goldbrand? Goldbrand is an ancient artifact, which takes the form of a golden katana. It was created by the dragons of the north. According to the legends of Thebes, it was given to a great knight who was sworn to protect the dragons. It contains the power of the Daedric prince Bothia, and burns those that it strikes. One more legend about that sword was that it was wielded in the Battle of the Red Ring by Emperor Titus Mede II. All in all, it is a top-quality Daedric artifact. Calm down, calm down. This is not Goldbrand. Oh, you startled me, old man. Don't do that again, I have a weak heart. Then what is that? This is a replica of Goldbrand that a friend gifted me. A replica? Well, not as good as the original, but it doesn't lose to your medium or low-quality Daedric artifact. Damn, I want a replica too. Well, the current owner of the real Goldbrand is my friend Glemmet. Remember him? Glemmet? The one we met in Dawnstar with you and Tyr? That was even before I become the Thane of Winterhold. It was when Jonrad called himself Old John and taught me the battle spirit or the aura. That's him. Damn. Just who is that man? Chapter 207 Against the Thalmor 2. Every 5,000 votes there will be an extra chapter. Night fell at the coastline of Winterhold. The chilly breeze of the Sea of Ghosts made it impossible for people to survive the damnable cold weather without the company of fire and the cover of furs. Most people, not all people though. Nords can chug on a bottle of mead and walk around with one layer of clothing as if it is the mid of sun's height, July. That night, a band of high elves camped near the coastline under the cover of rocks and made a camp to warm themselves. Among them at the most central area was a high elven officer named Aurenia. She was the leading officer of this camp, and with orders to gather information about the new Nordic force rising in Winterhold. Aurenia always had a bad feeling about this quest. The higher-ups sent a very mediocre force under her lead to investigate the new threat in the east with no real backup whatsoever. She only had her partner Eleanor, who had infiltrated into Winterhold 3 nights ago. The mission went like this. Each one of them would go into Winterhold for a week and act as one of the refugees coming from Winterhold. With her talent, Aurenia performed very well in the first week and gathered a lot of valuable information about the Thane of Winterhold and his group. There was an imperial contact waiting for her in Winterhold and provided her with all the information that happened in the meeting between Winterhold's top brass, the Empire's envoy and the Stormcloak faction. The information she got her hands are really valuable and enough guarantee her enough merits for a promotion in the rank. The problem was her partner Eleanor. He was as arrogant mare and the source of her headache. He would always go and brag endlessly about himself in every occasion. Aurenia always wondered why would their direct superior, Justiciar Lenway, would always tag them up together in a team. She is twice as talented and hard-working than this Eleanor. Still, orders are orders. In order to root out any real threat in Skyrim, Aurenia had to swallow the bitter pill and do her job. Speaking of, her report was still halfway through done, and she was a bit worried about some certain event. An Altmarai master alchemist appeared in Winterhold. That mare was known for his radical beliefs about the man-mare relationship as he lived in one of the most damnable cities of men, Windhelm, the city that witnessed a lot of abuse against mare in its past and present, and also this mare has taken an apprentice from the men, which meant he was passing knowledge that should have put into the benefit of his race. Such an individual is an assassination target to the Thalmor, but him being in Windhelm kept him away from harm, as eastern Skyrim was not that welcoming to high elves. It was easy to send some assassins, but it was not worth it till now. With the rising force in Winterhold that is seen as a threat, something had to be done, but any stupid action right now would alert those people. Agent Aurenia discovered some people who were very alert to her movement and spotted her more than one time. If not for the imperial contact she had, it would have been impossible to move easily. Another piece of news in her report was the individual power of the Thane of Winterhold as well as his close circle. No one had any solid information, but the man was treated like a hero in the eyes of the people. It was said that he could turn the tide of any battle, and like his surname, he was very daring in his actions, qualities that would prove that he is going to be a true headache if left alone. Other than that, the force of Winterhold was diverse and highly trained. There was always a training going on in the mercenary camp of the Dare Dragon mercenaries, and their ships were always moving in the sea. Rumors were that the ships were always engaging with pirates for the sake of training. This meant that the troops of Winterhold have tested their mettle in battle and tasted blood a few times. This is enough to give them the needed experience for any bloody conflict yet to come. The problem here was that the Thane of Winterhold was very cautious in politics despite him being a Nord. He refused to take part in the religious conflict between Eastern Skyrim and the Empire and came up with the old Pantheon as an excuse. The Temple of Kine was a dangerous entity that the Thalmor didn't see coming. All the gods of the humans are equally dangerous. Worshipping Kine is also the same as worshipping the demon Doomdrum, Lorcan, whom the Nords call Shor. whether it is Talos or Shore, worshipping these gods needs to be stopped as soon as possible for the sake of fulfilling the ultimate goal of the Thalmor. Agent Aurenia ended her report with these warnings to her superiors and requested a swift eradication for the new force in Winterhold. As soon as she ended the report and sealed it, she went out of her tent while cursing the damnable cold of this freezing wasteland. She looked to the east and begged her partner Eleanor to be here as soon as possible. She actually left nothing for him to investigate as she was hoping to hoard all the credit for herself. What worried her actually was that Eleanor would go desperate and try something reckless like going into one of the red zones. These zones are places that got marked as dangerous to infiltrate because of the heavy security on them, such as the new alchemy shop and the Dare Dragon headquarters and barrack. Aurenia tried to infiltrate one of those places, but she found that there was a presence that was about to obliterate her if she stepped further into the place. This is how sensitive to magic high elves are. Even though she still didn't awaken her highborn power, the awakened power would allow high elves to have more magicka and a very high-speed magicka regeneration. All Thalmor executioners are awakened individuals with a power that are considered something with a tactical and strategic value. Actually, an officer like her was under one of those extraordinary elves. His name was Justiciar Lenway, and he was nearby with some of his trusted officers as he refused to stay in this camp for some reason. Aurenia sat beside a fire and waited for the return of Eleanor to get this mission over with. She was surrounded by some soldiers from the Dominion that weren't really anything impressive at all compared to the Thalmor soldiers. One must note that the Thalmor are the ruling faction of the Aldmeri Dominion, so any Dominion soldier was much lower in rank compared to an elite Thalmor soldier. Hours passed and Aurenia's head started to feel heavy. She checked her surroundings one last time and made sure that all the soldiers were sober before going to her tent. At that moment, she heard the sound of something tearing through the air. She looked behind her and conjured a shield to get ready to whatever that was. To her shock, tens of arrows mowed down on their small camp and started reaping the lives of the soldiers around her. Battle stations! She shouted at the top of her voice and the camp became lively in a second. Elite soldiers or not, high elves are not the foe to be made light of. Their reaction was fast and accurate. Every one of them was at least a seasoned soldier with 70 years of experience under their belt. Compared to Nords who would be middle-aged people at that time, high elves are not to be looked down upon well, in most cases. The sound of arrows breaking through the air was heard once again faster than expected, and another spray of projectiles started killing the soldiers around Aurenia. What are these? Bolts? Crossbows? That fast? Damn it, take cover. Take a hard cover. Shields and armors were no longer an option. The enemy was using fast crossbows that were unheard of. The power was much higher than the usual, and the firing rate was scary. Aurenia realized that they are under the attack of a new weapon. In truth, these were the lever-action crossbows. John kept their existence a low-profile matter as he didn't even hide them. He just gave some of the guards normal bows and other crossbows to make it look like not a big deal. In truth, these crossbows were a very scary weapon that only the trusted teams would carry around. Wulfur marked his enemies and devised a formation with the help of Njord, Brenda and Bjorna. Advance! With his order, the Dare Dragon troops started to advance in the snow under the cover of the shooters, with shields above their heads and a few shooters in the ranks. The troops used a mix of urban assault techniques and normal ones. With some mages in the ranks, they could corner the high elves and break into their camp. This was the battle of the big forces. However, in the shadows, many eyes were watching how this situation was unfolding to be. John hid himself and started giving orders and sending individuals for the true fight that is yet to come. Chapter 208 Against the Thalmor 3. This my birthday, 22nd of January. I am freaking 24. Also, I am publishing extras for 5,000 votes. We can do it. Wulfur gave the orders to attack, and the forces moved in an orderly fashion. A team started shooting to the heart of the Thalmor camp. a team started moving in the open with their shields up, and a small unit of mages was preparing to hammer down the defenses. The Dare Dragon mercenaries were very diverse. John encouraged the idea of learning magic, and made many promotions are based on many requirements. Magic was one of them. In his small army each soldier can at least cast a spell or two, which was rather very impressive. The forces were the infantries, which were the armed forces carrying round Nordic shields and spears, and armed with arming swords which were similar to the Roman legion except in a Viking theme. The archers were mostly relying on the fast lever-action crossbows, and John trained them like the Ottoman janissaries, arming them with a lot of bolts and deadly one-handed melee weapons. While not liking the idea of gunpowder Ottoman cannons to support his janissaries, John's third official team was the living cannons, which are the cannon mages. Unlike other forces that used the mages as a high-grade unit, John's mages were elites who were solely trained on the AoE, area of effect, spells like Fireball. With these units, John created his balanced small army that relied on modern tactics. There were still the naval units, but John preferred the battleships, which were a perfect solution for all naval battles. Ongium, Njal and Trudvar were Wulfur's commanding officers that oversaw the assault with the ranged teams. Njord, Brenda and Bjorna Firemane were getting ready for joining the assault. "Commander, are you coming too?" Brenda asked Wulfur, who was carrying his oversized hammer. "Hell yes, Wulfur loves having fun." Wulfur smiled with a hint of bloodlust and walked forward in the lead. Brenda and Bjorna looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. All the men in their lives are warmongers, even the one who is not Fireman's or Moonblade. Forward, men! Break their skulls and mash their bones. Whose sword is not bloody enough will get a good beating. Wulfur rallied the men who were used to his attitude. In the Thalmor camp, Agent Ornia heard the rallying and gathered her soldiers. "They are coming from the north, ready the traps. Archers take the towers. Soldiers, spears and shields, spears and shields." The inner layout of the Thalmor camp was simple. They constructed a small camp enough to house the 300 soldiers they are here with. Part of their plan was to clash with the force in Winterhold, but it seemed, and their number guaranteed total superiority in their opinion, but still, they were playing in the enemy's playground. Wulfur didn't like to wait for the enemies to prepare. Once he reached the nearest spot on the enemy's fortification, he ordered the smoke grenades to be thrown. These little toys were John's idea. Rather than the ability to blind the enemy and make a smoke screen, some of them can be colored and used to mark areas to receive the bombardment of mages. In this night, the moons didn't give enough light, so it was hard to see further than 10 meters ahead, but these weird grenades could make a glowing gas that could be seen in the darkness. Once the mage unit saw this signal, they understood that this is where they should blindly target. A barrage of fireballs mowed down on the defenses of the Thalmor camp, followed by loud explosions. Each fireball was fired from a staff provided by the company, so their power was guaranteed. In mere seconds, the wooden wall was completely obliterated. Attack! The defense of the Thalmor camp was in a disarray. Wulfur led the charge with his mighty hammer, followed by the 3 firemans and the Dare Dragon infantries. Breaking through the fortifications, Njord sped past Wulfur to be the first who would face the Thalmor force. Orenia was holding her staff high, waiting for the best moment to destroy as many invaders as possible, while neglecting Njord, the lone Nordic berserker who wielded a spear and charged in alone. However, when Njord reached the defense line of the Thalmor, he spoke only 2 words. "Fuss. Arrow." Power was unleashed with his voice, and the elves in front of him were reduced on the ground after they flew away. Even though the Thursdayum he used was completely inferior compared to what John can display, it was still Thursdayum, and Njord was still a talented tongue, even though this was all that he could display in this shout. The damage was done and Njord took down a lot of elves alone. Orenia got shocked, but she became infuriated after she realized what just happened. She tried to move the staff and aim her spell at Njord, but an arrow sought her arm, putting her down and dropping her staff on the ground. "Fuck. The second line. Retreat to the second line." There was still enough time to reorganize. Orenia was injured, but she wasn't foolish enough to fight under such a state of shock. She knew that voice masters can't use their voice twice in a row, so there was no more of that dreadful shouting anytime soon. As soon as her troops retreated, Wulfur was already there with his men. Don't give them the chance. Send them to oblivion. Glory to Winterhold. Sovngarde, you sons of bitches. Wulfur waved his hammer and sent 3 elves flying with their limbs broken to fine powder. Each time he waved his oversized heavy hammer, elves would meet their worst nightmares. I am loving it, ha ha! Wulfur loves big hammers. He was totally in a berserk mode, and he let out a golden aura. Even though he was a heavy warrior, Wulfur loved the holy aura that could heal him and make him fight more. He developed that aura after taking a special lesson from Hilda. His goal was to find a way to shield himself from the fire of the forge, but he ended up making a paladin-like aura. A blue aura rose from beside him, and another hammer landed on an elf, sending him away. Focus, damn it. Stop lusting over your hammer. Bjorna was already tired of his attitude with weapons. I can't, this hammer is the best thing John designed so far. Wulfur is very happy. Wulfur didn't stop admiring the hammer, and he waved it again and again at the elves. His image started to transform from the image of a paladin to a mad-blooded berserker. The firemen's troops were gaining ground faster and faster with the lead of the strong heroes buffing their morale. Jord looked at the far distance and nodded. Looks like the others are moving too. Try to finish her as fast as possible. Acknowledged. The 3 commanding officers of the Dare Dragon followed his orders and moved the archers' team to the fight too. At a time, Wulfur actually became tired from waving the heavy hammer, even though he had tons of fun for real this time. He still couldn't find the perfect weapon that would suit him for good. He was somewhat depressed but still had a fight ahead of him to finish. Here, keep this for me. Wulfur dropped the hammer on a dying elf and took a sword from the ground. He joined the fight again and started his killing spree while testing a weapon after a weapon. In the end, most of the Thalmor died like flies and broke into small teams as they retreated to the tents. Wulfur advanced forward alone and faced a Thalmor officer in one-on-one battle. The officer was using magic, but Wulfur would always throw a hidden knife at him, which resulted to a pure melee in the end. Nonetheless, the elf was a crafty fighter. Wulfur had a sword and blocked the coming attack from the elf's sword with it, the countered with a kick to the guts. The elf didn't stop and stabbed at Wulfur's face despite being on a knee. Wulfur avoided and counter-attacked his sword's pommel, sending the elf on his back. Agile as he seemed, the elf rolled backward as Wulfur was charging at him and slashed recklessly upward in a desperate attempt to send Wulfur away, which Wulfur blocked with the sword in his hand. Unfortunately, Wulfur's sword was not anything special and couldn't handle the elven sword in the Thalmor officer's hand. Tisk! Wulfur clicked his tongue and threw the broken sword away. The elf took the chance and slashed at Wulfur, who seemed to be completely not interested. Wulfur only waved his hand and slapped the elf away. How boring! He looked around to find any weapon, and all he saw was an eating fork on a broken table. Wulfur picked it up and walked to the elf with no expressions. Human, don't look down on me. Never. The elf couldn't take the humiliation of being slapped and walked over, but Wulfur already stabbed at him with the fork. The elf got a fork to his throat and died in a state of disbelief to a human. Impossible. Officer Telkar died just like that? 4 Dominion officers were hiding away far from Wulfur after seeing him kill an officer like that. Wulfur turned around and saw them and walked towards the tent they hid in slowly. Just as he reached it, he walked through its entrance, and all could be seen from outside was his shadow moving around violently in the inn. A few seconds later, he walked out with the bloody fork in his hand. Who saw him first was Bjorna. Wolf, we are all done. Maybe I should ask John to design me a trident next time. Bjorna heard that and her eyes rolled upward, then walked away while cursing at John. "Chief, we have a prisoner, the leading officer of the camp, a she-elf," Trudvar reported to Wulfur. "Fine, tie her up well. John will be pleased," Wulfur said with an absent mind and started overseeing the cleanup. A few minutes ago, when Wulfur started attacking the camp, a few figures in heavy furs watched the situation on higher ground. Justiciar Lenwë and his troops nodded to one another and started taking action. "The Nords really came, huh? I didn't believe they would be this daring." A Thalmor officer spoke with respect to a tall elf in Thalmor robes. "Heh, they are predictable. As soon as they discovered that idiot Eleanor, they came like hungry feral dogs." Justiciar Lenwë replied with a smug smile on his face. "But for Eleanor to be caught this fast, I can't help but be disappointed. Both Eleanor and Aurenia are fools. Beside their mediocre talent, they couldn't even come up with a way to play these idiotic humans around." The officer around Justiciar Lenwë started to mock their colleagues that were used as bait. It was true, Justiciar Lenwë has sent some law-ranked officers with some Dominion soldiers to be a bait for the Nords. Aurenia was a good officer, but she was a perfectionist, and had a very competitive soul, which always annoyed Lenwë, while Eleanor was a fool alongside the other nobodies. They were the best to use against the Nords in Winterhold, who seemed to be not going out openly against the White Gold Concordat and planned to hinder the Thalmor in the shadows according to the spies. The best way was to catch them red-handed and to ambush them while they are attacking the Thalmor camp. As long as the Thalmor could take some Nord prisoners back, they could use them to prove that the faction in Winterhold is a danger to the peace between the Aldmeri Dominion and the Empire, then use the Empire to fight them. After all, humans killing humans and the elves watching from the side is the new play the Thalmor came with. Humans are already foolish enough and had the numbers that the elves can no longer fight against. Let them chip each other lives away while the elves recover. It was one of the problems the Thalmor always had in mind. Even though the elves have long lives and can use these lives to perfect their combat or magic, their birth rate was very much lesser than that of the humans. John was also aware to the fact that the long living cells would focus more on survival rather than reproduction, which meant that the losses that the elves suffered in the Great War 23 years ago were still having their effect on the elven society, while the humans had already another generation of soldiers to replenish their armies. This is why the Thalmor are rather hesitant to start another great war, as they can guarantee the quality but not the quantity, and they will always try to control the humans to make them fight one another in order to recover in peace on their own. Justiciar Lenwë used his soldiers as a bait without thinking, as he believed that elves are much better than humans anyway. Even if the humans ambushed, the elves can react and turn the tide. One of the reasons why he took his best officers and retreated on a higher grounds to watch the elves obliterate the humans and brag about it. Still, he couldn't be more wrong. The elves were falling like flies. He kept his face solemn in front of his experienced officers, but he was about to slap himself 1,000,000 times now. "Fine, playtime is over, let's move and end this shameful display." Justiciar Lenwë ordered his officer, and moved swiftly to save what is left from the elves in the camp. Each elf in the Dominion army, lowlife or not, were important no matter what the others think of. This was the unwritten iron rule after the Great War, as more elven resources can't be wasted anymore. Once Justiciar Lenwë and his officers reached the location for firing their spells on the Nords, they all started to raise their staves and aim at the Nord team down there. Suddenly, one of the officers fell from his place on the ground. What is happening? Timon, answer me." An officer ran to his fallen friend and started shaking him. Once he turned him around, they found that the mare was opening his eyes with no breath or reaction. Time stopped for a second and everyone fell silent. The only thing that reminded the Thalmor team with themselves was a strange sound that they didn't expect hearing in a frozen wasteland. Meow! All turned around with their weapons drawn to the source of the sound. A black cat with glowing blue eyes sat on her buttock and tilted its head innocently. She turned her face down and started licking her front paw. Under the paw she lifted up, a small puddle of blood could be seen. The cat raised her face up and glared with its eyes to the elves who forgot to breathe. With that glare, she faded into darkness as if she sank in her own shadow. Chapter 209 Against the Thalmor 4. Horror of the Skull. Vote 5,000 stones for an extra. We are close. The cat raised her face up and glared with its eyes to the elves who forgot to breathe. With that glare, she faded into darkness as if she sank in her own shadow. Silence took over the place despite the noise coming from the small battle between the Thalmor and the Dare Dragon Company. The elven officers tried to look around for the small cat-like beast that killed one of their comrades. Don't wander around, form a defensive formation, the enemy has spotted us and they are using demonic arts. Justiciar Lenwë couldn't help but shout at his officers. He needed them to be in full awareness, not to fall in panic. Damn it! How is that possible? Justiciar Lenwë inwardly wasn't believing that he got ambushed like that. These men must be using some cowardly tactic of some sort. He kept scanning the area around with his magic, and found some traces. To the east, 100 meters, fire. With these short words, Justiciar Lenwë gave rapid orders and his officers followed immediately. A few lightning spells dashed from their staves and landed exactly where Lenwë pinpointed, but no confirmation on a hit was received. Damn it! Justiciar Lenwë now sensed a real movement, and it was opposite to where he thought it would be. A second later, the attackers showed themselves. Roar! With a mighty beast roar, a large snow saber cat emerged out from the snow and jumped at one of the large-bodied officers. In a mere second, the saber cat swooped another 2 officers and mowed down the large officer with its fangs. Trying to put on some resistance, the officer activated a close-ranged magic on the saber cat, but out of nowhere, a golden sword cut his hands off in a clean arc. The wielder of the blade was riding on the saber cat. Once he killed the large elf like nothing. He directed his attention to Justiciar Lenwë right away. Justiciar Lenwë coped on with the situation immediately and directed his staff at Jonrad, trying to cast a spell as soon as possible. Humph! Jonrad snorted in disdain and waved his sword once again towards Justiciar Lenwë. A whip of flame was released towards Lenwë at the same time. He cast a lightning spell. The 2 magics collided, resulting Jonrad's triumph. Lenwë's staff flew away by the shock of the clash, and he was sent a couple of meters to the back. Using that force, Lenwë managed to rotate himself in the air, then grabbed a scroll from his robe. Once he faced Jonrad again. He opened the scroll and a large-scale frost magic in it was released at Jonrad. TSK. Cheaters. Jonrad clicked his tongue and inhaled as much air as he could. However, what he exhaled was a fiery breath resembled that of dragons. What, the King of Ash? Lenwë recognized the skill right away. This was something only written about in tales, but this is with no doubt the fire breath skill, something only dragons and dragon knights can use. The only known dragon knight in these parts is an old nemesis of the Thalmor and a former blade agent, the King of Ash, Jonrad Firemane. Lenwë's spell was broken and he retreated even more. Once he could get a breather and face Jonrad once again. He noticed that one of his officers was sneaking behind Jonrad. Lenwë decided to make an opening for that officer and started spamming fast spells at Jonrad. Jonrad didn't hesitate and started dueling Lenwë with his flame magic. The officer that was sneaking behind Jonrad caught the chance and jumped at Jonrad, aiming his dagger at Jonrad's neck. Die, filthy human! Jonrad didn't even react. In a split of a second, a silver bolt came out of nowhere and hit the Thalmor officer in his forehead, sending him away like a ragdoll. The officer's body landed on a nearby rock with the bolt in his head, pinning him on it. Thanks, daughter, Jonrad said in a lazy tone. You welcome, father. A few tens of meters away, Jellinar was aiming her crossbow at the dead elf and nodded to herself with a grin. Let's not laze around, kill them all. John appeared beside Jull with his hand on the katana sword, Bowler's Oathblade. With his order, Jull and Alina nodded. Behind them, a few figures emerged and followed John's lead. These were Team Zero, John's personal guards. The group was around 20 people who all charged out of the snow. As they were running, a small black figure joined them from the side. During the charge, Nefertiti started to enlarge, turning into her beast form. "Let's go, partner!" Jull ran and jumped on Nefertiti's back. Nefertiti was not as large as Jonrad's saber-cat, but carrying someone as light as Jull was a piece of cake. Jull switched to her small spear and aimed it forward, then threw it at the nearest Thalmor officer. The spear hit splendidly and Jull jumped from Nefertiti, performing a flying kick at the Thalmor officer, then retrieved her spear. Just as she landed, she aimed the spear and threw it again. It wasn't over yet. She switched to a short sword and a buckler, then joined the fight. The crown of the Valkyrie on her head shone in a silver gleam, and her skin started changing color from ashen gray to shining silver. Jull dived into the enemies, cutting through them left and right. Her attacks were empowered by her aura and the crown on her head. "I am not falling behind." Alina used her wind magic and stormed the other side of the Thalmor officers. She unleashed a large cyclone of wind that threw the elves to the air. She entered to the eye of the cyclone and unsheathed her 2 moon sabers. In an artistic style, she drew arcs of blood with her swords. Once she had enough slashing, she touched the Fire Keeper mask on her eyes with a finger, and red veins started to form on its design. Pitiful screams and wails of help sounded from inside Alina's cyclone, but they died down in no time. Once her cyclone went out of magicka, around 10 elves could be seen in puddles of their blood that came out of their eyes, noses, ears and skin. Some even killed themselves to rid themselves of the pain they suffered. On another side, Nefertiti was advancing through the Thalmor with agile steps. She could use 2 styles of shadow magic now. The first is to travel through shadows by sinking into any shadow and moving from a shadow to another, including hers and John's. The second is to form claws, fangs and scales, all made of shadows on her body. Nefertiti formed 2 large fangs, extended her claws and made some sharp scales on her back and tail. One wave of her limbs could break armors and dent weapons, but Nefertiti preferred keeping things simple and targeted the gaps of the armors. With the speed and agility she had, she jumped like a demon between the officers, killing them one by one. John and his team arrived last. He had no wind magic to fly with or could ride on the fast Nefertiti. "Damn it! Leave some for me." John pushed out his green aura of madness and taunted all the remaining officers. They charged at him with mad expressions. "Die, human! Filthy Nord, we will eradicate your race." John smiled and put his hand on Bowler's Oathblade. This blade had an oath on it to kill the Thalmor, and this was the perfect moment to avenge and honor its previous owner. John drew the katana the right way and wielded it with 2 hands. Once the first officer came close enough, John slashed horizontally. Slash. A body and a head got separated and fell on the ground. Slash. 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 Each time John slashed, another body and head would go in separate ways. Just like that, John mindlessly killed over 15 Thalmor officers on his own. Man, katanas are really stupid. What kind of a sword can only slash and not stab? John seemed to be dissatisfied with katanas. Unlike how the media in his past life made the katanas appear like the sexiest weapons ever, John hated the shit out of that weapon. Even Wulfur himself described them as defect product. "Want to switch with one of my sabers?" Alina came behind John and offered him a weapon. "No thanks. Even though I am a longsword kind of guy, I will go with magic for now." John put Bowler's Oathblade back into his haven ring and took out the Skull of Corruption, the infamous staff of the Daedric Lord Vermina. Alina saw that staff and got some cold shivers in her spine. The staff looked like as if it was made of short straight bones attached up together, the joints with bone spurs coming out from them. The top of the staff had a horned skull with demonic features that made it look like the most horrifying thing ever. https://ibb.co/dbdk37n. Here is a pic. Once John wielded the Skull of Corruption. Its eyes glowed with a green light and made it look scarier than it already is. Retreat! With John's order, Team Zero along with Nefertiti, Alina, Jonrad and Jullinar all retreated behind John. The Thalmor thought they were gaining an advantage, but what met them was John aiming his staff at them. Now let's see what this skull can do. The skull had a few strange abilities that its wielder can use rather than using the staff to cast stronger spells. These abilities were Dreamsteal, Walking Nightmares, and Psychic Agony. To use the latter two powers, the user needed to use the first one to charge the skull by stealing the dreams of the sleeping people and replacing them with nightmares. John had the best source of dreams, which was Winterhold's prison. He went out every night and collected the dreams of the guilty to torment them without feeling bad about it, one of the reasons why John hunted many bandits lately. Now, with the staff charged, John can use the other two abilities. John waved the staff at the Thalmor agents and cast Walking Nightmares. What appeared was something unspeakable, as if the Thalmor agents were cloned. Another band of identical Thalmor agents appeared on the side of John. Even Jonrad and those who were around John retreated in a panic, not understanding what happened just now. The Thalmor themselves were in a state of utter shock, seeing mirror images of themselves on the side of the enemy. Attack! With John's command, the clones on his side attacked their originals in the most confusing scene ever. Each clone picked its own original and targeted it solely with equal power and equal skill. John's lips curved up. This staff costs me a lot of nights to charge, and its power isn't half bad, much better than the game. Take note that I mixed the power of the staff from the lore with the effects from the game. Check the UESP wiki. The fight kept going and going. John was fully focused on how was it going. If a clone killed its original, he would immediately send it away. If an original killed a clone, then he would send a lightning strike spell from the staff to take down that weakened original. Finally, the clones killed all the enemies in front of John, not entirely all of them, as the last mare standing was the injured Justiciar Lenwë, who barely defeated his clone. Amazing, right? For this single artifact to create such a fascinating power. John walked towards Justiciar Lenwë with a wide grin. Damn you! Justiciar Lenwë cursed at John while kneeling on the ground in pain. Don't get me wrong, you are a good mage. I would have enjoyed fighting you, but let's just say that all is fair in love and war. John aimed the skull at Justiciar Lenwë and used its last power, Psychic Agony. Justiciar Lenwë fell on his back and started squirming on the ground while screaming more loudly than he ever screamed in his life. The pain was so all-consuming that he no longer cared about his so-called elven superiority and would actually beg John to stop if he could. It was as if 1,000 hot knives cut through his flesh and skin. Alina walked beside John and looked at Lenwë's state. It was the same thing she could cause with her eyes, a state of intense psychological torture to the point that its effect would appear on the physical body. While channeling the spell to his heart's content, John noticed that the power of the staff started fading. It seems that the staff had run out on dreams. Now the skull can only act as a powerful magical staff until it gets charged with dreams once again. Justiciar Lenwë woke up from his pain in a haggard state. His appearance was so miserable as he almost sank in his sweat and filth. John looking down on him caused him an unspeakable horror, as if he saw a monster from the deepest of oblivion. In pitiful screams and horrified shrieks, Justiciar Lenwë started crawling on the snow trying to get away from John. He would go insane if he ever met John once again. He can't take it anymore. His mind was clouded with all sorts of fear, and survival was his sole purpose. In all his days he never was this scared. John looked at him, mocking the pitiful appearance of the elf. he flicked his fingers, spoke. Bring him alive. Shackle his magicka and gag his mouth. In sync steps, the members of Team Zero moved like shadows towards Justiciar Lenway, dragging him back and beating him left and right. John turned around and stored the skull of corruption in his haven ring. He looked at the direction of Wulfur's team to see that everything has ended on that side too. Let's clean up and go home. Chapter 210 To a New Adventure. Cleaning the battlefield was done mostly by Alina. She summoned a strong storm that buried everything under a mound of snow. The Thalmor camp was looted and every trace of their existence was erased. Alright, good job, everyone. Trudvar will oversee the rewards based on the merits of today. Also, those who are injured are going to receive an extra raise based on the injury. Yeah. Sovngarde. Boss. 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 The men started cheering on their own once again. Thanks. I am happy that you are happy, but remember, today never happened. If anyone asks, then you know what to say. Bandits. That's right, which is not far from the truth anyway. If any tiny piece of rumor went out, I will figure out who said it, capiche? Capiche. Good men. My relationship with the troops of Winterhold was very good. I trained them many times and kept them close most of the time. These troops are my important brothers and sisters after all. I had to keep them under the impression that their boss is an approachable person who treats them fairly all the time. I can tell many of their names, with the help of the system of course, and offered them a lot of free education in magic. I also helped them with their family and health matters and offered them the best of Winterhold's services. Even though that was the case, I also added limitations to what the mercenaries can do and have to limit their greed. It was a very well-studied system to keep everyone in line. After finishing with the general tasks, I went to the tent in the camp that is now ours. There were my top officers gathered alongside the two prisoners we had in our grasp. Apparently, their names are Aurenia for the female agent and Lenway for the male agent. How is the loot? Perfect, better than perfect. We took a lot of elven gear this day to the point that it will sink me with work. Wulfur loves work though. Wulfur said with a pleased face. Okay bro. I am happy for you. Smelt all of them and make us some good product. Noted. Hey, I was thinking. That's dangerous. Very funny. Can you design me a trident? This guy. What weird idea is he dragging me into this time? John, if you ever design something new for him, you won't hear the end of it. Bjorna came out of nowhere and threatened me with a dagger. Okay. Geez. The hell is going on between you guys? I don't want to know, but get a hold of yourself, man. That hammer you made last time is very good. Well, it is too heavy. Just find yourself some good sword and use it as a secondary. I am making a big order in the coming days, so make sure to be free. What? Want a new weapon? Me? Nah, I will go look for a certain sword in a few days. You will tag along. Fine. The meeting in the tent was concluded fast. Cousin Brenda took her men and went back to the Moonblade clan. We from the Dare Dragon Company and the Firemen's rode in front of the troops back to Winterhold. That was one hell of a staff, kid. John Rad was riding beside me on his sabercat. Dreadful, isn't it? Just don't show it to your mother. I called out the skull of corruption from the Haven ring and showed it to him. Alina doesn't like it, I said. Poor child, her luck is as bad as your mother's. You mean because of us, born under the serpent? Johnrad nodded. It is our fate that stinks, old man. These women are kind enough to us that they decided to stay in our lives. You and I both know we struck it the luckiest. I said what I firmly believed in. For Hilda, Alina and Julliner to follow men with broken fates like me and Johnrad, those women are the greatest no matter how I think about it. With the number of hardships in our lives, those women just withstood all the stupidity and pushed us forward. I can't help but admire them. Jonrad himself went silent to what I said, but I am sure his thoughts were exactly like mine. Wahahaha. Kid, I admit it, truer words were never said. It seemed he agreed with me completely for the first time. It was gross, but I think we are both glad we agreed like that. Speaking of mother, is she? Yes, she is. I smiled widely when Jonrad confirmed my thoughts. Why aren't you pleased? I thought you would be jumping around all over the place by now. To tell you the truth, a few months ago when you came to the clan, I and your mother were ready to have another flock of children, but now, as it happened, you are chickening out. Well, I wouldn't put it that way, but, fuck, sigh. We are chickening out. It was obvious their firstborn turned out to be a disaster child that almost destroyed a clan and made a lot of trouble throughout Hammerfell, Cyrodiil and Skyrim. Now that I think of it this way, I am truly a disaster child. Look, it all will turn out just fine. The world can't endure two of me in the same era. Haha, I guess you are right. Jonrad and I were really agreeing more and more this day. Okay, what are you still doing here? I asked. What do you mean? What do you mean, what do I mean? Still, not getting you, son. Aren't you the one who has a pregnant wife? You and I both know how crazy can she get when she has one of em weird thoughts. Jonrad realized what I meant. Well, I am heading back first. Jonrad patted his saber cat and moved ahead as fast as he could. Damn, those saber cats are really fast. I was left back, but I was not alone. I turned around my flame Atronach horse and waited for Alina and Jull to catch up. John. Homan. Ladies. What's with father? Jull asked. He remembered something and went ahead first. Alina rode on my right and Jull rode on my left. Nefertiti was lazing on Jull's Atronach horse and Alina was looking into a note. What is that? This is the initial report from what Ongium could make our prisoners spit out. I see, what does it say? You see, Ongium used or rather abused your name with the elf male, which turned out to be really useful. The mayor pissed himself and spat out all what he knows. Good. Apparently, the first purpose is to assess the threat of Winterhold's new government, that's us, and to get a list of names and details about the important people inside Winterhold. It seems that the female prisoner has infiltrated Winterhold and gained the names of some senior employees in the company alongside some information about their personalities and weaknesses, stuff like their relatives outside Winterhold and those with families in places the Thalmor can reach. Haha, I saw that one coming, I said with a wide grin. Seriously, how low can they get? They would go as far as kidnapping the relatives of our people to force them into their side? Julliner seemed upset about it. Of course, it is how low people are. That is why I made the background form in the employment papers a must. Those who are going to be promoted to high places were mostly people from Winterhold or those with no origins that we trust. I see, the natives and the Dunmer. That's why you always preferred the Dark Elves and Nords. True, I have a high opinion in Dark Elves as I was raised by one and I also like them. They are really down-to-earth and humble folk as long as they are not nobles. True. Julliner buffed her chest. She is a half-dark elf but her appearance is very much influenced by them, so in public, she can be counted as a dark elf with some human ancestry. Anyway, that's not all. Rather than sorting us out, they were to assassinate any threat that is not connected to any large force and figure out the relationship between the Dare Dragon Company and the clans of Skyrim. Alina kept going. That far? How dirty! Jull said. Heh, it gets better. They are also to try and frame us with anything that would make the Empire move against us. They wanted to frame some of us to be Talos cultists or related to the Blades, but their plans have failed with the emergence of the Temple of Kine. Their next move seemed to be luring us on a fight, then capture some of us to prove that we are a danger to the White Gold Concordat. Dirty! Jull was still displeased. Not impressive. I said my opinion. How would you have done it then? Alina asked. Well, if I am the enemy of Winterhold, I would attack its economy by trying to influence the naval trades and make it hard for the company to operate outside Winterhold. My next step would be spreading rumors around the citizens about the company to worsen its image. The third move would be spreading an epidemic or any kind of poison around the population, then offer the cure in exchange for the most important resources in Winterhold. This would prevent any economical stand-up in the hold once again. That's how I weaken the entity, break it from inside and destroy its infrastructure," I said with a proud tone. The girls, however, were looking at me with pale faces. "I am going to spread the news around my friends from the other clans to never piss you off," Alina said. "I think you are the most suitable person to face the Thalmor after all. They wouldn't have a chance against you," Jul said. "Well, it is not my fault that I was reincarnated from a shitty world that would trade people lives for oil. Unless you control their greed, mankind is a lost cause in my opinion. Still, do you have any preparations if someone as scary as you appeared on the side of the enemy?" Alina asked. "Sure, to prevent any of that from happening, I gathered a lot of information about our important trading partners and their weaknesses to find all leverages on them. The second thing I did was to control the news flow in the hold by controlling the rumors and recruiting eyes and ears around the town. The last thing was hiring a lot of healers for the Temple of Kine, and also by luring a master alchemist like Master Nurelian to come to Winterhold. Now there will be no possible way to strike us from inside as long as we keep our security up all the time." The girls started thinking about what I said and nodded in the end. "Well, carry on with the report," I said. "Ahem, this is how they were planning to deal with us overall. That high elf female agent is apparently a very diligent one. She showed a lot of resistance during the interrogation and wouldn't speak a word. Also, her work showed that she has a talent that the Thalmor failed to employ in the right place. One less threat to worry about. I agree. The last piece of information, however, is interesting. It seemed that there is something very important that the Thalmor suspect they would find in Japhet's folly." "What is that?" "No idea, the elf didn't know. All what we could tell that it is something of value to the elves that they lost to pirates 6 years ago, and they want it back." Is that all?" "Yes. If the elves were after something that much, then it would bring me great pleasure to take it away from their hands. It seems that we should power up the fleet and its firepower as fast as possible. We have 2 months until summer and the sea is still frozen now, so it is dangerous to sail with a lot of ship. Still, we have to risk it and go to that place." "That place?" "Yes, you should pack your things. We are going to Solstheim." Chapter 2:11 Lover's Trip. We are not far from 50,000 votes. 3 days ago we boarded my very first ship, the Alexandria, and headed to Raven Rock, the main port in Solstheim. I woke up in my bed and pushed away the sheets. The ones beside me were 2 very naked beautiful girls in deep sleep. Sigh. We overdid it last night again. We 3 spent all of our night time in hedonism. Alina and Julia both know very well how to party and seduce me. I am kinda proud of them, my women are really the best. We were on my very first ship, the Alexandria. As one of the smallest ships in the company, she was put away from service as we got our 10th ship, but I wasn't really satisfied with that. This ship held great meaning to me as it was the very first property I owned after all. So, in order to not make this ship go out of service, I built a warehouse on the Chill Isle and made a workshop to build and develop ships for the company there. It was also a place for keeping the gunships away from the trading port to safe keep them away from the prying eyes and harmful hands. Anyway, this ship got upgraded to the max. Some of the best pieces of magical tech were all installed here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the first ship that moves without sails in this world. Yes, I did it. I managed to create a magical engine powered by soul gems, which is super simple in the design, just a few elven metal wires that are conducive to magicka and 2 large fans under the ship with telekinetic enchantment that would make them go in round. It was too simple to the point that I was afraid it would be figured out once it was seen, so all the hard work went on how to hide the engine. About the sails, we just reefed them and pulled up the not so important ones, with that we can pretend to be sailing when actually we are going on magic. One day, this engine will be redesigned to work on a higher speed and will be implemented to all my ship. I dressed in my robe and a fur cloak ready to meet that chilly breeze of the morning. As I left the room, I headed directly to the deck of the ship. "What's up, Captain Ongium?" "What's up, Boss John?" My friend Ongium was sitting behind the ship's wheel on a large chair with a few levers and some compasses around him. "How do you like the new sailing mechanism?" I said as I joined him. "Are you kidding? This is like a toy. A child can sail this ship." "Glad you like it." We fist-pumped each other. "Ain't technology awesome?" "It sure is, boss." I was really happy with the result. This baby ship was like most advanced pieces of modern tech pumped up together and made a large piece of awesome. "It is a shame this ship has no magic cannons," Ongium said. "Shut up. This ship consumes 250 MP per kilometer. One shot of the cannon can consume the same amount. I had to charge the Black Star and some other black soul gems during the fight with those Thalmor to get us this energy we are working with." "Well, I am not a mage, but I think you are doing a great job, boss. This ship can comfortably sail with only 2 or 3 people." "I know, still, we need to solve the energy problem. Having such a resource like the magicka all around us and not employing it is sheer stupidity of this world. If the Dwemer were to stay until this age, I am not sure what cool toys they would have invented." Sigh. "How disappointing. I am going to pretend I know how you feel and offer you some mead." "No thanks, I had my fill last night." "Oh. It was really noisy in your cabin." "What?" "I thought I activated the muffling rune. I mean the movement and all, you know we can tell." "Oh! Don't worry about it, Wulfur and Bjorna, me and Jvanka. The ship took a lot of shaking last night." I said, "Wait. Jvanka? Jonald's daughter?" "Yeah, we're together. That's why she retired and didn't get employed in another place. Man, good catch." We fist-pumped again. It seems this trip is only for couples. "Where is Wulf?" "Engine room." I took an apple and went to the engine room. There I found Wulfur staring at the engine. "What's wrong?" Wulfur looked at me and sighed. "This thing, you are a genius. I hate to break it to you, but this is nothing impressive. I just recreated something I saw before. Also, the Dwemer managed to create walking giant robots, and with some sort of artificial intelligence that can recognize allies and enemies, and that was thousands of years ago. Are you still hyped about this crappy engine now? But still, that baby of ours is moving on its own. Don't you feel proud of it? Wulfur loves babies." "Gross. I know we created the engine together, but to call it our baby. Wulfur!" And here she comes. It seemed that Bjorna is really pissed in the morning. Wulfur's face seemed to have come to a realization when he heard her voice. A second later, Bjorna invaded the room with an angry look on her face. "Hey, cousin. Where is Wulf?" "Here he is. I knew I would find you here." I haven't seen this side of Bjorna before, but as soon as she saw Wulf, she held him from the nape of his clothes and started dragging him. You sneak out from the bed to go and watch some lifeless machine moving around itself. You won't hear the end of this. "But those things roll, babe, they roll." I could hear their argument across the ship. Wulfur is obsessed with magical tech, just like me. Actually, I am the reason he is obsessed with it that much. Unlike Alina or Jull who love combat, Wulfur is my chief engineer who understands me the best when I go on some research that is related to machinery. Anyway, best of luck with that angry Bjorna. I closed the engine room's door and sat opposite to the machine collecting notes about how to improve it in the future. After an hour or so, I gathered my notes and went back to the deck. There, I could see Wulfur and Bjorna sitting beside each other. He was patting her back, and she was smiling. It seems that an airhead like him can take care of these matters too. I winked for him and returned to my cabin. There, my two beautiful ladies were still lazing around in bed. Alina was having a soft blindfold around her eyes to not accidentally harm Joel, and Joel was sleeping on Alina. "Why do I feel so turned on?" I asked Alina, who seemed to be fully awake. She smiled and kept stroking Joel's hair. I woke up to the voice of Bjorna. "Wolf did it again?" "Yep, Wolf is being Wolf." Sigh. "I heard he used to be a quiet and shy lad until he met you." "You used to be a quiet and good girl until you met me," I said and pointed to the muffling runes around the room. "Alina forgets the world when we play together." "Pfft, ha ha. How can I argue with that?" To Alina's sudden laugh, Joel woke up. She moved up from Alina and opened her eyes. "First thing to see in the morning is Alina's boobs. Yep, that's a good day," she said with a blissful face. "Happy that you are happy, now get up." Alina pushed Joel away and sat up. I handed them a plate of bread and cheese with some juice and sat between them. "So, when will we reach Raven Rock?" Joel asked. "A day or two. Damn. It should have taken 2 weeks with a normal ship," Alina exclaimed. "And now we're doing it in 5 days. Okay, you're awesome. Everyone knows that," she said, mocking my proud reply. "Still, how is that trip is going to increase our power? Now that you mention it, I would like to say that Solstheim is full of treasures, resources and dangers. Our group will start a massive excavation in the island. The most important thing is to make ties with the Dunmere population in Raven Rock and build a trading post for our company there. It is all fine, but we never set foot in Raven Rock before. How do you know if they would accept our help?" "Simple. I have acquired some intel about Raven Rock and their economic problems, so there will be no short on how we assist them. Remember, the most important thing about doing business with complete strangers. Solve their problems," the two girls said in unison. "I am glad that you are fast learners. But what about our problems?" Joel asked. "Yes, you said we need to grow in strength really fast," Alina said. "I know, I have got a revelation from a trusted source on how to upgrade your strength. I am going to distribute some tasks to you two. Ongium and Wulfur collect all the stuff that we need." "How long will it all take?" "A month." The conversation about the expedition continued, and we put a lot of plans to get the best rewards out of this trip. These are the things that are mostly about us and the company. What about you? How do you plan on getting stronger yourself?" Alina asked. "Well, as you know, I have a special training that is not perfect just yet, but I am improving it." "I know, that so-called magica cultivation." "Exactly. Well, the sole reason I am not sharing my method with you guys is because how dangerous it is on your bodies. You do remember that I had a case of astral damage a year ago?" "Yes. Master said to never do your cultivation thing because of that." "Well, as I halted this sort of training, I worked on how to improve it, and with some luck, I discover a strange kind of energy that flows in the fire garden back at the clan. That red energy? Uncle said it is too harmful to weak bodies." "Well, not for me. When I visited Tel Fyr with Nurina, Grandmaster Alf gave me a gift." I reached my hand to a chest beside the bed and took out a book. This book contains tons of valuable information about the astral body that contains the soul, which is the source of all energies in the human body, and also about the physical body, aka the mortal flesh, which is the unique instrument that can gather and hold all sort of energies, and last but not least, the links between the astral and the physical bodies, which is known as the acupoints that channels all the energies from the outside world to the inside soul and the opposite. This book that I kept studying in secret long ago was revealed to my closest two people. Alina looked at the book as she understood every word I said. Jul didn't understand them all, but she had the basic knowledge around the theory. It's incredible! Alina touched the book and exclaimed. I know. Now back to the red energy in the fire garden. That energy is really harmful to weak people, but if used right, it will bring great power. Not sure I am following. I didn't reply and pointed to Alina's firekeeper mask. Huh! Remember what was it enchanted with? A heart stone. Yes, I used a heart stone instead of a soul gem. Now, do you remember what the heart stones are? Heart stones are molten rocks that lay next to the heart of shore for years, Alina said and paused to think about something. The heart of shore or Lorcan, I remember that you said it is located in the Red Mountain and it is the heart of a god. Could it be that some vestige of its power has seeped into these stones? Jul picked up faster than Alina. Correct. These stones contain a minuscule fraction of the power of an original spirit. This power is not merely magicka, it also contains a strong life force or vitality, the equal power to magicka and what can balance it to not cause an astral damage. Alina and Julia realized what I want to say at last. So, that's it. It is risky but worth experimenting. Of course, I have taken precautions as always. Will you be able to reach the rank of an expert wizard if this succeeds? Why not? When was the last time you measured your magicka? And how many spells does your spellbook hold now? Oh, let me check status. Huh. What? I will show you something really cool. Attribute. Vitality. 710. Magicka. 1220. Magic. Mysticism. Novice magicka control who dispel magic, alarm or detection. Apprentice magic mark clairvoyance, silence, scan or soul trap, force bullet. Adept self-empowering, soulfire a telekinesis, runic weapon. Expert third eye shock control, teleport, levitate. Alteration. Novice muffled candlelight a haste, lock/unlock. Apprentice bind featherlight, magelight mage stereo. Adept flashbang transmute soul gems. Conjuration. Novice banish/bound Deidre, conjure familiar raise undead. Apprentice bound weapons/armors. Conjure Atronak conjure undead. Adept reform Atronax conjure Dremora. Destruction. Novice flames sparks. Apprentice fire bolt, fire rune a lightning bolt, lightning rune corpse explosion. Adept fireball, fire cloak, chain lightning, lightning cloak. Expert thunder cookie, fire claw meteor. Illusion. Novice calm fear a night vision. Apprentice fury courage, far vision asleep. Adept blindness heat vision paralyze. Restoration. Novice healing, steadfast ward sun rays, circle of strength. Apprentice absorb vitality, reflection ward, sun fire a sun rune mystic wind. Adept quadrant ward, holy smite, holy cloak, circle of moons. Powers. Racial war cry resist frost. Standing stone, shadow stone hide in shadows blur. Bloodline. Firemane Titanborn, Beastmaster Fireborn, resist flame. Blessing of Kine. Fortify Thursdayum, blessing of Talos. Fortify Thursdayum. Thursdayum, unrelenting force, clear skies. Aura whisper, fire breath, whirlwind sprint. Battle spirit arts, lightning aura, blue. Madness aura, green. Chapter 212 Manners Maketh Man. We made to 5,000 votes. Can we make it to 8,000? Yes, we can. And we will. Vote and grade. Never stop voting. What is that? The girls jumped from their place. Of course, it is the first time they see it. I never showed my status screen to a soul. This, my ladies, is a newly developed way to tell one's power and mastered spells. They kept looking at the long list with wide eyes. The status screen can only be visible to me, but I can use alteration to make it visible to others. How accurate is it? Alina asked. Very. Can it show our powers too? Joel asked. Nope. It is kinda a thing that I acquired with the help of a friend who I will introduce to later, but it can't be applied to anyone but me. Oh, I see. They seemed disappointed. Well, not if I manage to create a tool that can do something similar. As I said that, they both looked at me with sparkling eyes. Do it. All right. The two got closer and started reading my status together. Look at all these spells. I only mastered 15 spells and damn. Joel was taken aback. Put that aside, you have 2 racial powers, 2 bloodline powers, star constellation powers, and 2 blessings from both Talos and Kine. I am working on Debella too. That's not the point. How do 2 divines favor you at the same time? I have never seen you praying. Alina said. Talos' blessing is because of this thing. I have been wearing it for 6 years. I pointed at the amulet of Talos around my neck. It was the same amulet that Hilda gave to Nurina 6 years ago when I discovered she is my real mother. Kine's blessing is because of the old man who taught me hunting. He is the main reason I consider Kine my favorite Etiada. This blessing was probably gained when I performed the pilgrim to High Hrothgar. I read all the stone tablets about Kine's gift to mortals, and my Thursdayum became stronger. Alina nodded. She too has Kine's blessing since birth. Blessings in reality are different than the game. In the game the player can just visit any shrine and press E to gain the blessing. In reality, however, blessings are great signs and not something anyone can look down on. Kine and Kinerith may be the same Etiada but 2 different aspects. The Nords see Kine as the warrior wife of Shor, goddess of the storm, mother of men and beasts. The Imperials see Kinerith as the sky goddess whose gift is healing. This is why Kine's blessing grants power, while Kineritha's blessing grants good health. Putting that aside, you already have 5 Thursdayum and 2 kinds of auras. Only the ones I mastered. Meaning, I trained on other kinds of auras and many words in the Thursdayum, but I only mastered those. Amazing. That's true, the status screen is set to show the spells, aura and dragon words I mastered and use a lot. If I set it to show everything else, then we are having a long list of incomplete shouts, the auras I don't use and the spells under research. I am not sure about the number up there, but I assume that the Magicka number works the same way as the Magicameter. Correct. Damn. You have more than 1200 Magicka? This is insane. Last time I checked myself, I had around 400. Alina said. I have around 200. Joel said. If we combine ourselves together, we will barely reach half what he has. Alina said. This is crazy. Joel replied. They both looked at me as if I am some sort of a freak. Now you understand how cool the cultivation is? I said. Wait, that is because of the cultivation? I nodded. My technique is not refined at all, it has a lot of flaws and it harmed me badly. As far as I know, I am the only person in the world who uses Magicka that way, but there were studies on the acupoints before, so it meant that there is knowledge that can improve my technique. With this book in my hands, I am going to create the best cultivation method that will not harm the user. What pros and cons does that cultivation have? For the pros, it can increase your power and enlarge your Magicka pool, improve your Magicka's quality as you can spend less Magicka to make better results. It can also extend your life. For the cons, I would say it is a very unusual path to follow, so all I know is that it may harm the astral body. There also may be something more dangerous, but I didn't come across anything of the sort yet. Regarding the cons, you already solved the known problem, but if it can really extend one's life, how did you find about that from the start? You are the same age as us? Well, as you may know, High Elves possess the largest magicka pool of all races, also they live longer than any other race. While human mages rely on enchanting and potions to increase their magicka pool for a temporary period, they don't actually possess that much inner magicka. One last thing was the people of our clans. Both the Firemans and the Moonblades possess non-human ancestry that they kept for ages, which resulted that they are all born with more magicka and longer lifespans. I came to the realization that inner magicka is the key to live as long as elves. Take Old Man Thalmor for example. The last thing I figured out was that he is more than 300 years old and his inner magicka is as much as mine, of course. He is an inborn talent, but I can pretty much live as long as him by cultivating. Live as long as Thalmor? Alina and Jul jump. Thalmor's age is one of the 7 wonders of our college. He is very old and everyone is trying to figure out his age. He is a known figure across Tamriel and his life experience and knowledge is at the realm of an arch-wizard, but he is rather a peaceful person who doesn't pursue strength. Well, I am planning to live longer than Thalmor anyway, which means I am not going to live that long life without my 2 beautiful girls at my side. You too will learn how to cultivate when it is safe enough. I held the 2 naked girls and hugged them left and right. Yes, I am a greedy person and I plan on spending the eternity with these 2 babes. After a lot of sweet words exchanged between the 3 of us, the 2 girls didn't spare me in the night and had a few rounds of lovemaking each. Their vitality was so strong that they really lasted better than before. Since the time we 3 started living together, there was never a dull moment. Going together on a ship and spending our lives together like that would be my dream retirement plan, but retiring is not the word we are after now. What we are after is work, and a lot of hard work too. This morning, our ship arrived at the port of Raven Rock and Ongium took a boat to request entry to the port. But we were denied. That's one way to get on the wrong foot with Raven Rock. What is the reason? I asked. They refused to let us to the port because of the number of the troops we have, Ongium said. I looked around and understood the situation. I see, we may have brought too many troops. We have around 40 troopers and 10 mages, let alone the ship's crew. They were all armed and equipped. They said we can enter Raven Rock with only 2 boats even if they were all men. Haha, I see. Raven Rock's governor seems to not want any trouble around his town. Bringing too many men into the town is not good news. 2 boats of men mean we either sacrifice the luggage we can transport by boats or we send a decent number of people with their luggage on. Still, that was no problem for me. Before we take the boats, did you find a port? Yes, to the east outside Raven Rock. There is a platform for ship. We will drop anchor there. Good, gather enough supplies for me, my family, Wulfur, Bjorna and 10 troopers. That much. Just do it. Ongium nodded and turned to the crew. You heard the boss. Do what he said. In around 5 minutes, everything was ready in front of me. I aimed my fist forward and all those things got sucked into the Haven ring. The men opened their eyes wide but they didn't figure out what happened. It is magic, something not any mage can cast, I explained. The men started making understanding remarks with their faces. Anything I come up with and call it magic is believable for them. Okay, to the boat. Ongium, take the ship and wait for us outside the town. I will send you your assignments later. Understood, boss. The 2 groups got separated on the ship and the boats, and we started rowing to Raven Rock Town. The air was ashen brown and its smell was that of a burned wood. It was a bit suffocating, but we covered our faces with normal covers. These were the ashes of the Red Mountain, the largest volcano in the continent. I kept looking at the east, gazing at that large mountain where a thick pillar of ash rose to the sky. Vardenfell could be seen all the way from here. It was large enough to be considered an independent country on its own, the home of the Dark Elves. In front of me, however, was Raven Rock, a colony built by the East Empire Company on the southern coast of Solstheim back in 3E427, once a mining outpost, it is now Dark Elf Colony. A far cry from the prosperous mining town of the past, Raven Rock has become a mostly forgotten settlement due to the mines drying up and due to the waters being polluted from the ash coming out of the Red Mountain. The town has become something similar to Winterhold from 2 years ago, with fewer ruins and very few trading ships coming by to sell their supplies. Also, after the mass Dunmer migration in the early 4th era, it has taken on a heavy Dunmer influence in its governing and culture. House Reduran is an established presence, and their banners adorn the walls outside the town. As the boats approached the port, we saw the ashen walls that surrounded the town. The place seemed desolate and otherworldly in the first look, but I felt that I really was happy being here. Joel, we are outside the Empire and Skyrim. Solstheim is Morrowind land. I held Joel's hand, who was beside me. She smiled with one side and shook her head. It's alien to me. I have never seen such a strange land in my life. Skyrim is all I know. Of course that would be her reply, stupid me. Well, we can sightsee for a while before we start our important business, Alina said with a cheerful tone. We will. She was on my other side and looked really beautiful. Homan, I hate this. Nefertiti, however, was super annoyed. I forced her to be in her human form and to wear human clothes. In addition to the alien land we are entering, she was clearly out of her comfort zone. Don't worry about it and stop calling me Homan. You will be Alina's sister and you will call me John from now on, understood? She didn't reply and looked away. Okay, time to use it. I took off the Haven ring from my hands and transformed it into a cube, then into an amulet. Here, can you keep this for me? I put the Haven amulet around her neck. Nefertiti's eyes widened and kept looking at the amulet while holding it in her tiny hands. She then looked at me with innocent expressions and nodded. One thing I discovered about Nefertiti is how much she likes to keep stuff. You can give her anything to keep and she will love you for life. I am not sure where is this coming from, but she would treasure any responsibility I give her, which is not a cat thing at all. Still, I am glad she feels happy about it. Now we 4 were looking cool in our super expensive clothes. Alina, Jelinar and Nefertiti wore custom dresses from Solitude and looked as beautiful as ever. Alina had a red dress and Jul had a blue one. Both were made in the Cyrodiilic style. Nefertiti had a custom black dress which fit her perfectly. I also wore a very expensive mage robe that gave off my title as an official mage from the College of Winterhold and had a big cloak over it. House Dare rules. As soon as we landed on the wooden dock, a dark elf man with an arrogant face and expensive clothes that reflected his age and status came towards us with some armored guards behind him. I don't recognize you, so I'll assume this is your first visit to Raven Rock, Outlander. State your intentions. Well, nobles. My name is John Dare, Chief Executive Officer of the Dare Dragon Trading Company in Winterhold as well as its Thane. These are my fiancées Alina and Jelinar. This here is Nefertiti of House Dare, my brother Wulfur and his fiancée Bjorna. My intentions are to trade my goods and also looking for a possibility to make a trading partnership with Morrowind's great house Reduran. Trading? This time? And Winterhold? Last time I heard of Winterhold was that it is a desolate land with only a college of a long history and ruins of a long history too. Haha. True, however, all that was until the last 2 years. The Dare Dragon Company has taken upon itself the mission of rebuilding Winterhold. I can say that you guys are having a rougher time here compared to Winterhold. Is that so? Well, it will remain to be seen. But you have picked one of the worst places in Morrowind to do trading. Still, suit yourself. Thank you. What are your goods? Cotton, wheat, mead, honey, leather and furs from Skyrim. Rice and wine from Cyrodiil. The dark elf looked at me speechless. My company is that rich, and we kept a lot of good relations with the traders in Windhelm, Solitude and Dawnstar. Actually, we are filthy rich compared to Ravenrock's government. Ehem, Sir John, is that how you are called? It is. Sir John, as the second counselor of Raven Rock. I, Adril Arana, welcome you, sir, to Raven Rock. That's one big change of attitude. Thank you, second counselor. Raven Rock has a lot to offer, from gemstones to different kinds of ores and alchemy ingredients that an esteemed mage such as yourself would be interested in. Please, this way. Unlike my wild attitude in Winterhold, I used manners and money to wow the second head of Raven Rock. After all, money makes the man, as well as good clothes, beautiful women, and a lot of armored men in the background. But the most important thing is manners. Manners Maketh man, bitches. Chapter 213. Into Raven Rock. We were led inside the town by the second counselor after we landed in the dock. Without turning around, we crossed the road under the watch of Raven Rock guards and climbed a long stairway on the other side of the road, then were in front of the entrance of Raven Rock's temple. The architecture was unique and like nothing I have ever seen before. Most of the buildings looked similar to large beetles, but to my knowledge, they were larger from the inside, as the larger part of the building was actually dug in the ground. Please, this way. Adril Arana led us to the side where there was a large round table under a shed with some seat. Before we start making business, I need to remind you that Raven Rock is sovereign territory of House Reduran. This is Morrowind, not Skyrim. While you're here, you will be expected to abide by our laws. Crystal clear. We sat under the shed on the platform that overlooked all the town. How do you find Raven Rock? Interesting, a lot of ash though. There were indeed mounds and mounds of ash everywhere. It was all swooped away, but its smell was everywhere. I am afraid that other than Raven Rock, Solstheim is a big pile of ash. Other than its town, Winterhold is a big pile of snow. Haha, then let's drink to that. Adril Arano picked up a strange container and poured its content in 2 goblets, then offered me one. A servant poured the for the rest of my family. Also, my guards were on the standby outside the building. In case if you are wondering. That is Sujamma, a liqueur only Dunmer can brew. Yes, I am very familiar with it. I received the goblet and thanked him. Nords drink Sujamma these days. Nope, it is my adoptive mother who drinks it. Sujamma, Matza, Shine and Flynn, I grew up between these things. These were all dark elven liqueurs. That's strange. You adoptive mother, is she a Dunmer? Yes, she raised me in Riften before we moved to Winterhold. And you became a businessman right away. No, took me quite a while. This is my first attempt to venture with my company outside Skyrim. Raven Rock may not look appealing to many, but I have a good feeling about it. I hope your feelings are true, I really hope. Adril Arano seemed down. I know from the game that he is a stern but a good person. His job is making his life and marriage harder because of all the difficulties in Raven Rock, and here where my company comes in to solve problems and gain partnership. We kept socializing with Adril Arano until his wife Sindairai Arano joined us and Alina started using her refined socializing skills with Raven Rock nobilities. It all was going according to the plan. Second counselor, here is the inventory I intend to sell. He kept looking at my inventory of goods and kept smiling. The problem in Raven Rock was obvious. They were short on money and had only 2 sources of goods, the East Empire Company and Morrowind's mainland. I simply brought then enough food to last the town for a month with a very fair price too. We will secure the road from here to the secondary dock and send a few guards and servants to pick the goods. Sir John, thank you very much. He offered his hand for a shake and then handed me an official note with the prices agreed on. This trade earned me almost 6,000 gold coins. Raven Rock can't pay me back in coins for sure, which means I have to take a lot of goods on the way back too. Well, this is my goal from the beginning. The Dunmer population in Winterhold is growing steadily and it would be nice to have some goods from their homeland. The demand for them will be epic. I heard you were having safety issues outside the walls of Raven Rock. This isn't exactly the city of Blacklight. We're on the frontier out here, and we've had more than a fair share of troubles. After all we've been through together, I refuse to let Counselor Morvain down. Counselor Morvain is the head of Raven Rock. You must be pretty close to him. I've known the counselor since we were both quite young. We rose the ranks in House Reduran together. When word arrived in Blacklight that the counselor's father had passed, I was asked to sail to Raven Rock with him as his second. We've fought quite a few battles together and saved each other's lives on more than one occasion. Our bond is our strength. Sounds just like me and Wulfur. What is Blacklight? Wulfur asked. It's the capital of Morrowind, been that way ever since Mournhold was sacked by the Argonians. I don't visit there often anymore, but we still get the occasional supply ship and visitors from there. I heard about the war from my mother, but she didn't tell much about it, I said. Yeah, it was dark times. The Argonians cut a bloody swath across most of the southern region of Morrowind. Nobody seems certain why it happened, an attempt at expansion, revenge for the enslavement of their people, or perhaps both. Whatever the case may be, thousands of Dunmer needlessly lost their lives and many more were exiled from their homeland. The Dark Elves enslaved a lot of Argonians, Khajiit and humans during the Golden Age of Morrowind. One of the reasons of the war between them and the Argonians. Even in Riften, Dark Elves and Argonians were not really that friendly to each other. After an hour of talking and socializing, we were led to one of the Dunmery manors in Raven Rock. This is an unoccupied place but has all its furniture and got just cleaned. Please, make sure to enjoy your stay. Thank you, Second Counselor. Will there be any problems if I and my family decided to go and hunt outside the town? I see that you have brought many guards with you, but please consider that our land is different from Skyrim. I advise you to hire a guide. Noted. Adril Arano said his farewells and left. I headed back into the house, started looking around. John, the place is clear. No sign of anything suspicious. Jull came and reported to me. Good. I have decided the rooms and distributed the supplies. The guards will stay at the entrance and the hall. We 6 will occupy the 2 rooms downstairs. Alina and Nefertiti reported too. Everything was in the Haven amulet around Nefertiti's neck, and she can get things in and out of it. Perfect. After we settled down for a few minutes, I held a meeting with Alina, Julliner, Nefertiti, Wulfur, and Bjorna. This is a map to Solstheim. These red areas are old Nordic barrows with high importance. This place is Raven Rock Mine, which is a very important area of interest. The enemies in this land are mostly ash creatures like the ash spawns and the ash hoppers. We need to take everything step by step to put Raven Rock back on the map without alerting the East Empire Company. Why is that? Jull asked. I don't want them to fight us over Raven Rock, so we are going to be trade partners first, then start unearthing the treasures. The first phase is at those 2 locations, Kolbjorn Barrow and Fort Frostmoth. The old barrow will be our first treasure excavation site, and the fort is for reducing the threat of the ash spawns. Actually taking over the fort will solve some of Raven Rock's security problems and will make us trustworthy enough to establish a trading post. Sindirai Arano told me she will help us get a pass to port the ship in the docks, should I? Alina said. Refuse the request politely. We don't want to burn our connection for something worthless. Outside the town is much better. We can transfer our discoveries to the ship without worrying about the town guards. I will keep the valuables in the Haven Cube, but the rest will be put in the ship. All right. Wolf, you will go and tell Angium to take the men and patrol the lands around their dock. We want the troopers to face the ash spawns and the other ash creatures. Make sure that our men get used to this alien place. We will join them too. I like the sound of it. There is that thing about a hidden clan here in Solstheim, Bjorna said. Here. I was taken aback. Yes, they are called the Skull. Alina confirmed. Wait a minute. The Skull are a hidden clan? Both nodded at me as if it is something natural. Strange. The skull appeared in the game. I thought no hidden clan ever appeared in the game, and now they are telling me the skull are a hidden clan. Actually, it makes sense. The hidden clans are Nords, check. Have their unique tradition and ancestry, check. Worship old Nordic gods, check. The skull has the same rules that apply on the hidden clans. The skull are an offshoot tribe of Nords living in a village in northeastern Solstheim. They are known as a trusting and hospitable people, welcoming strangers into their village without any suspicion. The skull are descended from the Nords who served the dragon cult on Solstheim, and built tombs to honor the dragon priests who ruled over them. They get all that they need from the land around them and do not often accept coin in trade from travelers. How is the relationship between our clans and the skull? I asked. Really friendly. Just tell them you are a Firemane or a Moonblade and they will sink you with hospitality, Alina said. Let's visit them too. Chapter 2:14 Wulfur loves forks. Thanks for Taco Lord on. He gifted an ebony armor. Also chapter is unedited for now. Just don't forget to vote and comment and rate and review and everything that makes me happy. Enjoy it, mortals! We decided our first phase of making bonds with Raven Rock, but we were really tired to the point that we decided to laze around during the first day in the town. I took a bed and surrendered myself to sleep for a few hours. When I woke up, I was told that the girls went out to the market. It was only me and Wulfur and some guards in the house now. Wulfur was sitting in the hole polishing his oversized hammer and armor. As I joined him, he greeted me in a good mood. This place needs a TV. Come again. A TV we can watch sports on and drink Coke together one weekends. Did you see a dream from that past life of yours again and wanted for it to happen? Yep. He is right, I actually dream a lot of my past life. I don't know why I miss it for some reason. I had no girls, no money, no power and wasn't this handsome. I struck it lucky when I got reincarnated, but still, my head keeps going back to the days. I guess I missed having no responsibilities. Okay, let's go, I said. Where to? To visit a friend. The girls were out so we can have some boys' time together. We headed out in Raven Rock Town. The sun was setting but the place was crowded. People were coming and going all over the place. When I say people, I meant dark elves, they are everywhere. Wulfur and I stood out with our appearance and Nordic clothing style. Where are we heading? The market. Don't you want to see what kind of goods they sell and don't sell here? Technically, that's your job. Ma. Just come with me. There were really a lot of things we saw for the first time in this place, something like the ash yam, a tough and tuberous root that is widely used in Morrowind. After checking its inside closely, I decided that it can be considered a variation of the normal yams and sweet potatoes. There were also ash hopper meat. The ash hopper is a large insect that looks identical to the grasshoppers, except they are wild and dangerous for common people. Their bodies are so tough to the point that their remains can be made into a chitin plates for creating armors. They can also be eaten like grasshoppers, except they are much larger, which make the process easier. There were also a lot of ingredients and gems that Solstheim was really famed with. What they all have in common was their source, which is the Red Mountain and its constant eruption. It made the land of Solstheim made of volcanic ash, which is harmful and killed all the regular wildlife 200 years ago, but it gave a chance for these ingredients and mutated wildlife to grow in the southern half Solstheim. I said the southern half because the northern is a highland and kept the area behind it mostly intact. One can say that Solstheim combined both Morrowind's and Skyrim's properties in a unique and a magical way. Still, from what I noticed in the market was the lack of food and how expensive it is, unlike the gemstones and strange ores that were all over the place. This meant that we can export food to this place in exchange of dark elven commodities. The other thing that took my interest is the volcanic ash itself. It is a very good soil enricher. Once the minerals in ash are washed into the soil by rain or other natural processes, it mixes with the soil to create an andesol layer. This layer is highly rich in nutrients and is very good for agricultural use. The presence of lush forests on volcanic islands is often as a result of trees growing and flourishing in the phosphorus and nitrogen-rich andesol. Volcanic ash can also be used to create some chemicals like adhesives and medicinal creams. One other use is creating ceramics and some sorts of glass. Still, the most common use in the Dunmurry lands and in Raven Rock, to be exact, is the Roman concrete, a material used in construction during the late Roman Republic, which is really durable and hardy. Its incorporation of volcanic ash prevented cracks from spreading. This sort of concrete could be seen all around Raven Rock actually. Those beetle-like buildings are all made of concrete, and the famous wall around Raven Rock, which is called the Bulwark, an astonishing wall built with concrete blocks as a response to the relentless ash storms from the ever-erupting Red Mountain. The storms would leave behind deep dunes of ash that made life exceedingly difficult in Raven Rock. I decided to export a few sacks of the volcanic ash to analyze and create a better version of concrete that can be used in Winterhold. I am sure Master Alchemist Nurelian would be delighted with the idea, especially with the plan I have to rebuild some other parts in Winterhold. After luring Wulfur around with all the scientific talk about this and that, we arrived to where I planned to go from the start. Look who's there. It's old Glover. Who are? Wulfur. John. I stopped in front of Raven Rock's smithy shop, the place where I expected to find an old friend. Glover Mallory. Wulfur recognized Glover right away. Glover Mallory is Delvin's brother, a man I knew since my time in Riften. A member of the guild and a good friend too. How can that be? Why did you get this tall? Glover, who was in his blacksmith gear while holding a hammer in his hand, threw what he was holding away and looked me as if he saw a freak. Long story short, I got more awesome. No, you are the same stinking John. Ignore him, it's nice to see you, old man. How come you are here? Wulfur pushed me aside and talked to Glover. Wulfur and Glover have a good relationship, so I was pushed aside right away. Long story. It is really nice to see you boys. What brings you to Raven Rock? Trading. Trading. Yeah, our company is making business around Raven Rock now. Company? Business? I heard a rumor about some ship arriving from Skyrim. Can it be? A long story. Show us the mead and I'll tell you everything. Wulfur said in a cheerful tone. Fine, let me clean up and I'll come with you right away. Glover closed his shop and put away his tools before coming and leading us to the largest tavern in Raven Rock, the Retching Netch Corner Club. As we sat in a table and ordered some ashfire mead, we started our reunion conversation. Glover arrived to Raven Rock a year and a half ago after he left Riften because of some personal reasons. He is a member of the Thieves' Guild, but he chose to live a regular life as a blacksmith. His speciality was the bone mold armor, a kind of armor very popular in Morrowind that is created how its name suggests. A lot of bone meal and adhesive materials to mold the bone powder together and create light and durable plates of bone. We told him what happened in Winterhold and what we were up to. Wulfur tried to invite him to join us in Winterhold, but as expected, he didn't want to come to Skyrim again. But to think you managed to become a thane and wealthy businessman in 2 years after leaving that sorry excuse of a city, you really hit it lucky, boy. No matter what words you say, you can't begin to describe how awesome I am. Ha ha. After all that time, you are the same fool you used to be. I shrugged my shoulders and arms with a proud face confirming his claims. So, what brings you to Raven Rock for Real? You wouldn't come all this way to sell food to some poor dark elves. I looked at Wulfur and exchanged a nod. We are mainly after ore and minerals. One is a bit rare and hard to come by. I am listening. Stalrim. Glover raised his brows and nodded. He then sipped some mead and looked at me. You are serious about it. As serious as a heart attack. Do you even know where to find it, how to mine it, and how to forge it? Glover asked with a sly smile. He seemed to want a cut of whatever we are after. I was hoping a certain old friend can help us. If not, we can go ask around the Nords in the Northern Highlands. Well, you know your way around Solstheim already. Tell you what, I provide Wulfur here with a way to do so, and you give me a little share. Deal? Deal. Glover smiled and shook his head, as he couldn't take advantage of me. We are friends, but the relationship about the Thieves' Guild members is this complicated. There is no shame in fooling one another. It can be considered our way to have fun, but the word deal means deal. First, you guys need a special pickaxe. I am talking about a Nordic pickaxe enchanted with old magic. This one work. Wulfur took his personal pickaxe from his side and showed it to Glover. It is the notched pickaxe, the one I picked up to Wulfur from the throat of the world when I visited Parthurnac. The notched pickaxe in the novel is not a regular one like the game, it's an overpowered ancient Nordic one because it is legendary. Oh, would look at that. Where did you get this beauty from? Found it next to a dragon lair, I said. Dragons again? You never grow up? I shook my head. Sigh. This one will work well, but you need more if you want to mine a lot of Stalrim. Noted. Glover started explaining to Wulfur how to forge the Stalrim and where to find it after that. It was really a complicated process, but it seemed that the Stalrim can be grinded and molded together like the bone mold too. A really wonderful property that explains how an enchanted ice like the Stalrim can be used in a forge. While we were talking, Alina, Jull, Nefertiti and Bjorna came into the retching netch with Sindairi Arano and some other dark elven women. It seems they were socializing really well. They went right away into a special corner in the tavern for high-class guests without noticing us. Well, you look at that. Where did all those ladies come from? Like many other men, Glover was attracted right away to the lady's appearance. Wulfur and I looked at each other and laughed. As we did that, we were spotted by Nefertiti, who saw me and ran to my direction right away. She silently came and sat on my lap. Glover was taken aback from the sudden action, but I nodded to the Alina that it's all okay, and to keep doing what she was doing. This is Nefertiti, a family member of John's. Wulfur introduced her to Glover. The two tall girls over there are his two fiancées. The tallest one is my fiancée. Oh, I'll go bring more mead. Wulfur told the rest to Glover and went to the bar. Damn, what is going on in Skyrim? You are becoming rich and having women. I really did miss a lot. Yeah, the last couple of years were hectic, but fun. I bet your ass you had fun. If you didn't have fun with all that, I would have beaten your ass all around the place. The conversation continued until Wulfur returned. Where is the mead? I asked. Forget about it now, I found something really cool. Check this out, some fool left a really nice challenge. In Wulfur's hand I saw a fork and a piece of paper. Oh, that challenge, forget it. It's a prank made by some wizard. Glover reacted to Wulfur. Come on, Wulfur loves forks. Wulfur complained, but I reached my hand and took the paper and read its content. Dear person who happened upon this letter. It is your lucky day. Nearby you will find the fork of horripilation. Oh, how I do love cutlery! But what is it, you must be asking? Well, horripilation is the standing of hairs on end due to cold, fear, or excitement, and excitement is indeed upon us, my friend. Take this fork, and use it to kill 2 special bull netches in single combat. Each will yield an artifact, the Eye of Sierda and the branch of the Tree of Shades. Warriors of another age might find these familiar. Combine these together for a special surprise. If you're successful, you'll be rewarded quite handsomely with the Staff of Sheogorath, handsome indeed. If not, well, I do love to watch a good fight. Yours truly, Lord Sheogorath. What the fuck? Chapter 215 A Fork for Your Thoughts. Sorry for the short chapter, this is just something I wrote hastily in the car while traveling. Also, I hate to break it for you guys, but Sheogorath does not appear in this part. In exchange, his Daedric quest, in the future, will be changed just like how I did with Vermina and Herson so far. The explanation is in the chapter. Enjoy, Redheart. I read the letter that is said to be from Sheogorath, and my brain just ceased from functioning. This simply can't be true. This shouldn't be true from the start. I didn't download that mod. In attempt to understand what is going on here, I requested a room in the Retching Netch Innkeeper to stay in alone for a while. I took Nefertiti, the fork and the note with me, then started studying what I have. This was unbelievable. System, call the augur. Confirmed. What is it you want? Do you see what am I seeing? It seems you have come across something unexpected indeed. What do you mean unexpected? It shouldn't be here. You are mistaken, I find it natural and completely logical for you to find this here. What do you mean? Why don't you check this out? The augur viewed a screen for me, on it a memory of mine was being displayed. In that memory, the past me was holding a tablet device and browsing through a web page. Do you understand now? I see. This is really unexpected, but logical. Still, things needed more confirming. Show me the other pages. More memories started popping up on more screens, and I started confirming things I never foresaw happening. After 17 years of my reincarnation, I discovered something new. These web pages I was viewing in my past life were about the mods that came from the Creation Club, that below-average modding community of that was supported by the games company that added official mods to the game. I never downloaded a mod from that Creation Club as its mods were all charged for with real money, and of course, the free mods in the Nexus were far better in quality and immersion. Remember to always support your favorite modders. But the thing I didn't take notice of was that these mods from the Creation Club are official. What it means is just like the DLC content, these mods are canon in the lore. The Raven Rock I am in right now existed in the lore by a DLC, which meant it should exist after my reincarnation, and so the Creation Club mods that I didn't download. Oh, bummer! The realization hit deep. I took my enchanted quill and a paper from the Haven amulet around Nefertiti's neck, who transformed into her cat form, and started copying these notes from the screen. I confirmed all the mods that are possible to exist and what they provide. Strangely, not every mod from the Creation Club existed in the lore at the official description and the unofficial wiki, so I started to include some mods and exclude the others based on the immersion and how possible they are. I am adding only artifact mods from the Creation Club. Other mods like Sunder and Wraithguard or Divine Crusader set are really far-fetched in terms of lore. Artifacts, huh? These are really interesting. Never have I thought I would get my hands on them. These artifacts were in a sort easier to acquire than the other artifacts, mostly in the hands of other people, and only needed to be liberated. The first artifact we come across is the Staff of Sheogorath. How to acquire it is simple. Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness and the most dangerous one to deal with in my opinion, has offered the staff as a reward for whoever hunts 2 bull netches with a fork, not just any fork but the fork of horripilation. A very unreasonable demand by the most unreasonable Daedric Prince. Sheogorath himself is known to be the mad god whose motives and purpose are unknowable. In my opinion, they are unknowable because I am sure that Sheogorath himself is not sure about his motives. He is just a hot mess of a Daedric prince with a lot of power and a ton of time to waste. Dealing with Sheogorath is dangerous. I would prefer to avoid him as much as possible because one minute he loves you as fuck and the other he is forcing you to make the choice of your life. Sheogorath once tricked Archmage Shalader, the one who founded Winterhold's College and the city. Shalader once built a safe haven on an island to all mages, but Sheogorath tricked him with a knowledge that is incomprehensible and traded it with the island, which was Shalader's greatest regret and what led him to lose everything. It was later recovered by the help of a senpai hero of mine called the Soulless One Yeso player character. But that is a story I am not really familiar with. All in all, dealing with Sheogorath is dangerous, but the reward is really appealing this time. According to the notes I have, this bet with Sheogorath is not direct and not really harmful, and the staff itself is powerful. I opened the door of the room and asked Wulfur to come in. What is with you? You just went in and... It is Sheogorath. The challenge is real, not some prank. Whoa! Wulfur's face turned pale. Are you sure? Yes. Wulfur had an unpleasant experience with the Daedric princes from the time he got trapped in Quagmire, so he wouldn't be really reacting well to this. He looked at the fork and seemed like a guy who was turned off from a naked girl. This fork is called the Fork of Horripilation. It is a cursed artifact created by the Daedric prince Sheogorath. Really? Yes, he really loves it and refers to it affectionately as Forky. Even though in appearance and in function it is just a mundane iron fork, legends say that in the hands of the right people, this fork can be a deadly weapon because of a mysterious enchantment on it. Sheogorath is fond of forcing mortals to use it as a weapon and doing challenges with it, kinda a thing for his amusement. I see. What does horripilation mean, by the way? It is the erection of hairs on the skin due to cold, fear, or excitement. But the reason why the fork is called with that name is unknown. So, is using it safe? I guess it is, as long as you only use it as a weapon and don't infuse any magicka into it. It is pretty much just a fork. Wulfur started thinking in hesitation. He was really excited about the challenge, but it seemed he is now thinking about it. A fork for your thoughts? I put the fork in his hand and asked him. When I asked about the fork, they told me that some people tried to do the challenge before but mostly failed and some were injured. In all cases, the fork magically returned to its place with the note and all, he said. Natural. People think that a master wizard called Nelith who lives in the east of Solstheim is the one who made that prank. Nelith? I know him, believe me. He is bored enough to do something like that, but that is not him. This is Sheogorath himself. Wulfur started thinking again, then finally gave up to the temptation. Damn it! I want to do this so bad, but I am afraid. John, what do you think? I think you shouldn't tell Bjorna if you are going to do it, actually. The reward is a magical staff, so don't think too much of it. I don't want the staff, I want the fork. Oh, I see. Fine, if you do the challenge, I will come with you and the staff will be mine. Okay. We shouldn't tell the girls. Sure. And we should get dead drunk, Wulfur said and turned around. I knew you are my best friend for a very good reason. At that time we headed out to do something really foolish. Chapter 216, Put a Fork in It. 1. Drunk. It is like this from now on, guys. Extra chapter means 5,000 vote. 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 2 large humanoid shades were walking beside the southern beach of Solstheim. They were both staggering and singing with strange tones. Oh. There once was a fellow called Ragnar the Red who came crawling from. He was riding, bro. He was riding. Oh yes. He was riding from. Where did he come from again? Don't know. Where are we again? Not sure. Never mind, keep singing. Wah. But I don't know where we are, I don't know where Ragnar came from, and who is Ragnar? I don't know. Fine. Let's do it again. We are 2 adult men doing adult business in the middle of nowhere. No, that sounds wrong. We are 2 adult men doing non-adult business. Okay, I give up. You can sing. Wulfur started a sentence, but he didn't know where it will lead him, so he preferred to shut up. Finally, give me the mic. I don't have that. Okay, I'll sing to this. John took out the skull of corruption and aimed its head towards his mouth. Warning! The following is inspired by Skyrim misheard lyrics. It will change the way you sing Skyrim's main song forever. Play this https://youtube.b/csbcgrilji? T=24 to understand what have I done and read the next part like Skyrim's song. Leia la Leia Leia. Gotta pee, we'll rock this party. For the night, for the food, for we are not drunk. Has Alina found out? We are not in our beds? Not me. Or the peeps. Or the guards will cry. Musical rumbling. Use a fork. Thank the Lord. Was it good? Oh my God. And the cheese, oh. A Bella. A Bob. Was it Wulfur who stabbed my butt with a fork? Gotta pee, we'll rock this party. For the night, for the food, for we are not drunk. Has Alina found out? We are not in our beds? Not me. Or the peeps. Or the guards will cry. Party. Rough. Party. Rough. Clap. Amazing. I like it. You, my friend, are a silver tongue. Wulfur said while staggering. Thank you, my lord. Where are we going again? Oh. To hunt that thing, strange thing, Netch. Oh right, it's a Netch. Nope, you are wrong. It is a bull Netch. Really? What is the difference? I'll tell you, Netches are flying jellyfish. Right. Bull Netches are big flying jellyfish. I see. How do we find them? Wulfur asked and John started to think. There. John pointed at a direction and lo and behold. That is a bull Netch? Wulfur asked. Growl. Don't offend it. See, it said of course I am a bull Netch. Oh. Sorry. Growl. It said it's okay. Good, what do we do now? I do nothing. You kill it. Wah. But it's a polite Netch, it just forgave me. You are the one who wanted to take the challenge, not me. Oh. I have to kill a polite Netch now. Don't worry, come here, I'll tell you a secret about Netches. What? 10 minutes later. Die, feminist. Die. Wulfur went all out and started chasing after the bull Netch with the fork of horripilation in his hand. John sat on a mound of ash and started watching the strange fight. He was drinking and cheering for Wulfur. Yeah. Stab its butt, that thing, yeah. Put a fork in it. Give it a good beating. Netches are creatures that resemble airborne large jellyfish with a hard shell on the top, floating through the air supported by internal sacs of magical gases. Although male bull Netch are larger than the females and possess the ability to defend against the aggressors, females usually keep a harem of several bulls and rule the herd during breeding seasons. Netches are often domesticated in Morrowind, mainly due to their hides making good quality leather, although the skin contains a toxin that renders the meat inedible. Wulfur was fighting one of those bull Netches fueled by the words John told him. He was on a holy endeavor to rid the words of the feminists. He was holding one of the Netch's tentacles and stabbing its organs with the fork. The fork was pretty much just a fork and the Netch was a big animal, so it seemed to be go to take a while. Wulfur managed to climb on the Netch, and it started moving around wilding, trying to rid itself from the furious and relentless aggressors until Wulfur managed to stab a vital point with the fork. Finally then, the Netch lost its power and fell on the ground. John. I did it. Ha! I slew the feminist. Call me Wulfur the feminist slayer. In front of Wulfur, the Netch was on its shell upside down. Wulfur used the fork to open the Netch's soft guts and put his arm in. The inside was like a jelly, but Wulfur finally managed to grab something round and pulled it out. In his hand, he found an eyeball. John, I found it. John, where are you? Wulfur started looking around and couldn't spot John anywhere. Pat, pat, pat. He then heard the sound of something hitting the ground beside his feet. He looked down there and saw an arm coming from under the Netch's carcass. "Oh, what are you doing down there?" Wulfur pushed the Netch aside, and it rolled away down the mound. John was found lying on the ground where the Netch was. "Look, John. I found the eyeball." John sat up as if he came from the dead with all the ash on him, and looked at Wulfur's hand. "Oh, the Eye of Sierra. That's one thing." He took it and started investigating. "Wolf. Yes. The eye, it is looking at us. Oh, that's right. Is it watching us? I don't know, but is scaring me. How did they get that eye out and kept it open in the first place?" "Good question. Maybe they took it while its owner was awake." "Oh, must have hurt. Let's put it away now." John stored the Eye of Sierra in his ring and stood up. "How to find the next Netch then?" Wulfur asked. "We call for it. You know the Netch's name?" "No." John and Wulfur paused to think for a while. "Found it?" John came up with an idea. "I will say Marco, and when the Netch hears us it will say Polo." "Why would the Netch say that?" "Because we are looking for it. If someone is calling you Marco, you should say Polo. It's a common sense, bro." Wulfur didn't seem to understand John's flawless logic. "Have it your way. Fine. Marco." And nothing replied. Wulfur looked at John, expecting a new idea. "Marco. Rumble rumble. Oh." John and Wulfur looked at each other with two idiotic smiles. "Call for it with me." "Fine. Marco. Marco. Rumble rumble. You hear that?" "Yes, it is working, but it is not exactly saying Polo. Don't mind it now, we found that slimy bastard. Where does its voice come from again?" "That way, I guess." John pointed to the south towards the sea. "Will we swim?" Rumble. "No, it is getting louder, call for it again." "Marco. Marco. Marco." Rumble. All of a sudden, the southern sky above the red mountain was dyed in red with a thick pillar of smoke rising into the sky. A thundering rumble was heard and the wind started changing its direction. The red mountain was erupting once again. It was not something strange as it always does one time every 1 or 2 months. John and Wulfur saw a small volcanic eruption for the first time of their lives and fell to their knees speechless. "The Lord has spoken." They both shouted at the same time and spread their hands up, then starting bowing and rising towards the red mountain. "All hail the Lord! All hail! All hail!" In their state of drunkenness, John and Wulfur failed to notice the changes around them. Following each eruption from the red mountain, a strong ash storm is always expected. The wind started to howl in the night and the ash started rising and moving by it. John and Wulfur finally sensed the danger, but they were too far away from Raven Rock, and in this state of drunkenness, John can't use magic very well. "I think Netch is not that way," Wulfur said. "Yeah, let's go the other direction." "Hey, wasn't that a sign from the Lord? Didn't he just speak?" "Nope, he was clearly farting." John and Wulfur turned around aware of the approaching ash storm. They were clearly legless and staggering all around the place, but they tried to reach behind a large boulder. As they reached the boulder and shielded themselves with it, they discovered that the ash storm was harder to deal with than expected. The weather got worse by the minute and the two drunken boys started feeling the impact of the weather. It was truly the worst time for anyone to get as drunk as they are. To make things worse, the volcanic gases seemed to have started reacting with the clouds in the sky, lightning shone and thunder followed, announcing the start of a real storm. "Oh, John. I guess we should go back." "Go back? Are you crazy? There is no going back in the Book of Dare. John Dare never goes back." "It started raining." "Raining? Oh man. That's acid raining, we should go back." "Didn't you just say there is no going back?" "Acid rain will harm my beautiful skin, it is the only thing John Dare cares for. He is the most handsome man in the multiverse." "Then do something." "Don't worry, I got us covered. Take us into the cube." "Cube? Are you crazy? John dare never goes be. Yeah, just do what you have to do. Watch and learn, bro, watch and learn. John walked out of the cover of the boulder and faced the storm directly. If not for his large body, he would have got blown away. Here I go. Loch va cor. In an ancient and strong voice, the Thursdayum of John Dare echoed far and wide through the storm. The voice was heard across the southern region of Solstheim loud and clear. With this mighty shout, the air started to slow down, the clouds started to dissipate. The ash in the air all came to a halt and receded back to the grounds. In a few seconds, the sky was as normal as it was before the storm, but the land was messed up. The previous features of the land were clearly not the same as it was. One more missing thing was John. Wulfur looked around and couldn't see any trace of John. John, where are you? Where did he? Oh, I can do that. Marco. Wulfur started going around and shouting. Marco! Marco! Polo! Muffled voice. To that reply, Wulfur turned around and saw a strange tree to him. It looked like a tree, but these were John's legs sticking out from the ground. After a few seconds of analyzing the situation, Wulfur gained enlightenment and understood that these were John's legs. I am coming for you, hold on, bro, Wulfur said and held John's legs, then pulled him out of the ash mound. Cough, cough. That was so dark down there. How did you get down there like that? I was hit by a flying tree trunk. Thanks, bro. Wulfur stood up and offered his hand for John, but John didn't respond. He kept pausing for a second and made an overwhelmed face. He then looked at Wulfur with a wide smile. That's it. I have discovered it. Discovered what? A way to solve a worldwide problem. How could the world be so blind? When I was in the ground just now, I tried to dig myself out, but I only went down, you see it now. So that's why you were in the ground in the first place. That's not the point. Imagine now if people buried all the dead upside down. It means that the undead can never come back up again, they will only keep digging down. Oh, that's genius, bro. We are geniuses. We are smart. Yeah. Now let's go kill that damn Netch. Chapter 217. Put a fork in it too. Found out. 5,000 vote. Extra will be yours. Sun shone upon to a sleep semi-naked duo. They were John and Wulfur. Not sure what was happening or where they are, John opened his eyes to see a few figures around him. Oh no! He sobered up immediately and slapped Wulfur beside him. Ouch! Hey, watch it! Oh no! Wulfur saw the figures around them and turned pale. 3 girls, 1 cat and 1 large bear are what caused John and Wulfur to realize that they were in trouble they didn't foresee. Wakey wakey, sleepy heads? Joel said with a delighted smile. What's up, guys? John smiled, but he suddenly held his head. The hangover kicked hard once he tried to move and his vision blurred. Wulfur was no better. As soon as he stood up, he turned behind a small rock and started throwing up. You had a big party last night, boys. Care to explain? Bjorna asked. His idea. John pointed at Wulfur right away. Hey! Wulfur seemed upset. It was nice knowing you, John said with a cheeky smile. I advise you to worry about yourself more. I will be the only one nagging him, but you have 3 upset ladies to deal with, Bjorna said to John. John looked at Alina, Joel and Nefertiti, who were smiling at him with bad intentions in mind. His face turned pale too. Okay, girls. We had our fun too, let's not embarrass them more, Alina said as she gave up on messing around with John. Oh, come on. We can extort them for many things if we wanted to. Bjorna was turned down. Yes, Alina. You are too soft on them. Joel too. What are you talking about? John asked. The girls laughed as they remembered what happened last night till this morning. Let me ask you something first. What is the last thing both of you remember? Joel asked. John and Wulfur looked at each other. It was when John stopped the ash storm with his voice. Now that I think of it, it sounded really heroic. Wulfur said. Oh, I remember that after it we went to a pineapple-like rock, and it found a hole under it, John said. What now? A fruit from Valenwood still, what exactly happened? Fine, I'll tell you. We two were sitting at the tavern and Alina noticed that you guys started drinking a lot. That's when we figured out you were up to no good. We decided to stay sober and keep an eye on what you guys will do. Joel said. After that, John started to hide a lot of liquor bottles in his ring, and you two went out staggering. We thought the night would be over, but all the fun was actually just getting started. Alina said. Wait. You all were there? From the beginning? Wulfur and John asked. The girls looked at each other and laughed so hard. It was so much fun that I will write a song about it one day, Bjorna said. Oh man. We are ruined. Wulfur held his head with his hands. Keep talking what happened afterward. As you two staggered your way out of Raven Rock, you two kept walking towards the beach while singing weird songs. Got to admit though, the songs were fun. Bjorna said. Oh, thank you. You two walked to a large netch and Wulfur started killing it with a fork. Crazy it sounds, it got killed and you got an eye out of it. It was then when the ash storm hit and Alina was planning to come and save your asses, but then John shouted a very marvelous shout that stopped the storm like a charm. Joel said. After the storm, you two started drinking more then delved deeper to the north. We didn't know what you are after and Alina wanted to take you home, but you arrived at that weird-looking rock. The pineapple-like rock. Yes, that one. John was sure that there was an entrance to the inside of the rock, even though there was none. Once you two started looking around, you indeed found an entrance and crawled through it. We wanted to send a familiar after you to see what is going on, but screams started echoing from inside the rock. A few seconds later, you two came out with wide smiles on your faces and blood all over your hands. Bjorna said. What did we do? John became horrified. I don't know, you said some like I finally killed you, SpongeBob. Winnie the Pooh, you are next, and started laughing like a maniac. Alina said. John slapped his forehead. Oh shit. Who did I kill? The girls looked at each other and smiled. The highest bounty bandit lord in Solstheim. Here we collected the proof and the weapon. Bjorna brought a bloody sack with what it seemed to be a head inside it. There was also a great sword lying beside it. Oh, thank goodness! John was happy he didn't commit a crime. Wulfur also killed a lot the bandits inside with that fork. It was truly a wonder who someone many bandits died fork wounds inside that rock. Good job, bro, John said. Wulfur nodded. What happened after that? He asked. You two went out and started drinking and crying. John started complaining about his past life over and over again. You then tried to cheer yourselves up and started singing again. What did we sing? Something that goes like Valhalla ooh la la, Joel said. Oh, not that song, it is a masterpiece. Why did I sing it before finishing it? John seemed down. Sing what you wrote. Well, it's a song that I butchered, but it goes like Valhalla ooh la la. All of my heart is in Valhalla ooh la la. I took my axe and went to battle la la la. Okay, stop it, my head hurts, Wulfur said. Damn, such a fine butchered song. What happened next? You two found another bull netch, and things got really weird. You were originally climbing a rock, then jumped on top of the netch. Wolf tried to copy you, but he fell. You held his leg before he hit the ground, and the netch started running wild. Got to say though, you two were amazing. Such a large-bodied guy like Wulfur, and you managed to keep him hanged in one hand. Wulfur too managed to do some hanging set-ups training, and each time, he would stab the netch's organs with the fork. It was truly an admirable show of drunkenness and brotherhood. Hanging set-ups? No wonder my body is killing me, Wulfur said. This is genius though, John remarked. As the netch died and you took a branch from its guts, You two were submerged in slime and decided to swim in the nearest pond. It was a good opportunity for me to steal your clothes, Jullinar said. I see, so that's why we are at this state. Thank you. John seemed upset about it. It is not over yet, as our two adult gentlemen finished playing in the water and drank another keg of mead. You two were enough that we had to put a stop to it. Still, Bjorna came up with the best prank ever. Alina said. I have a bad feeling about this, Wulfur said. She tied your hands to your backs and convinced you to catch your noses, Jull said. The girls looked at each other and started laughing hysterically when they remembered what happened. John and Wulfur felt like they got wronged, but there were more to come. Wulfur decided that if he ran into a tree, he would corner his nose. He ran into every tree around the forest like a boar. Some of them couldn't even endure his charge at them. John couldn't hold it and laughed so hard. Wulfur was upset and didn't look at him. Don't laugh, at least he had a good idea for catching his nose. You were a mess. Oh boy! You started spinning around on the ground screaming, it's getting away, it's getting away. Bwahahaha. That's so fun. It was Wulfur's turn to laugh back at John. John didn't know where to hide his face, but it was already too late. The scandal was out, and to his closest people at that. Fine, we had enough fun for a day. Get up, you two. We made a camp nearby. Let's fix your hangover. The girls helped the boys up and headed to the camp they set up. Bjorna was riding on her bear, and it scared the other wild animals away, so it was relatively safe to camp here. John drank some hangover remedy and went into a clean set of clothes. He then took out an enchanting table from his ring and started putting components of the staff together. The Eye of Sierta, the branch of the Tree of Shades, a few soul gems and the note that from the message of Sheogorath. Once all were put together, John invoked his magicka into the enchanting table, and all of a sudden, a blinding green fire ate all the components on the table. Whoa! John was taken aback, but noticed the changes going on and the fire died out right away. There was now only a staff, the staff of Sheogorath. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.